And we're live.
Yes.
Thanks for joining me, Brian.
Great to be here.
Only what I can assume is a pretty busy schedule for you at this moment.
Yeah, most of my day is spent walking from A to B in tropical style heat. I don't think I've ever sweated as much in my life.
It's strange. Have you been to Edinburgh before?
I have. I don't ever remember it being
this hot.
This humid. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's pretty bad. Thank God we've got beer. Cheers.
Cheers, big man.
Cheers. Without the beer, I think I'd be dead. Like, seriously, the hills to get around. And I was like, what? This is like 57,000 steps to your studio as well. Didn't help.
Many of the previous guests have complained about that, you know, but warning to anyone that wants to come on.
Don't.
It is on the third floor, so
don't do it. Third floor in your country or wherever you happen to be based is probably normal third floor, but this is like
high ceilings,
steep incline stuff. Yeah, like seven flights for one in the real world. I'm surprised I'm alive, to be honest.
That's cool. You got here.
I'm alive. Yeah. Good.
So you arrived in Edinburgh yesterday, was that right?
I arrived in Edinburgh yesterday. That's right. Yeah, I came in yesterday morning and just get myself set up, moved into my accommodation for the month, my base for the month, which is the other side of the city, past Grassmarket. Pretty nice little cottage place. So
good spot.
Everywhere here is pretty nice. The houses are pretty cool and quirky and stuff.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's quite disgusting sometimes.
Yeah, grotty.
Just for it being nice, it's like
mold in winter.
I don't want nice all the time, you know.
Yeah. Move to Dublin. We'll look after you. No, it's nice. I mean, there's a lot of people here, obviously, and you could kind of feel the place starting to pick up and the buzz starting to slowly build. And like today, it's like just throngs of people everywhere. So I kick off tomorrow, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Yeah.
What did you do last night? You just chill out?
Just chilled out. Yeah, I was trying to get organised, pick up some badges and some flyers and posters, check out my venue, met up with some other comedians and worked out, you know, helping each other out with different bits and pieces of admin and stuff like that. So yeah, busy.
Is there a group of you that you know coming from home to the Fringe to do their respective shows?
Yeah, a lot of Irish comics will come over every year. So there's a ton of Irish comics over from anywhere between a week to like the full run. Yeah. So I would know, Ireland's obviously not a huge place, so I would know most of the comics on the scene who are coming over here. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's nice because you have a bit of an ecosystem there. So you don't have like, you know, guys ending up getting really lonely, or, you know what I mean, or people kind of losing their mind or anything like that. It's nice to have somebody.
It must be funny though, because you're technically going to a different country, but I assume it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. Well, well, there's obviously differences, but I mean, I don't think the differences stretch as far as the accent and the architecture. You know what I mean? Same
Queen.
And this is over.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said the Q word.
I would love to follow through that. We don't mind the Queen. She visited, basically.
She visited here?
She had a lovely... She's always up here. She's got a big house up here. She comes up and hits you with her flag every now and again.
She's not my Queen. Knight somebody just to keep the locals happy and then just disappears off the map.
That's the way it happens for centuries. You know? But you love it, right? You love the monarchy, don't you? No. You're a huge fan.
Well, I do, yeah. There's more to you. Well, yeah. It's not my preface. It's not my preference, should I say?
Okay. Yeah, it's to me like monarchy in general anywhere in the world. I don't understand it as a concept, but I don't have any harbor any undying dislike for the royal family.
Well,
I also don't follow their actions.
I don't go out of my way to sort of dislike them, but when it comes up on social media and I'm just like, I'm Scottish, it comes very naturally to me. I mean, I thought you would be more so, but...
no, it's like, look, if I met her, I probably wouldn't hug her for two reasons. One, I don't want to. Two, royal protocol. Yeah. But no, I have no real interest in the royal family, so I don't have enough interest in them to dislike them.
I wonder what it's like to hug the Queen. Like, what would when you hug someone, you can smell them and you can feel what they feel like. Would she just be like a bag of bones? Or?
I imagine it would be quite. When you get a shiver and you're not sure why, and you turn around and nothing's there. Yeah. I think that's kind of what it would be like. That sort of horror movie moment where you get a shudder, the hair stands up in the back of your neck.
I've kind of taken from Frankie Boyle slightly when it's like punching smoke. It's probably like trying to hug smoke. You know, she's not real.
She probably isn't real. I don't know. It's look. The royal family, there's a history there, obviously, with Ireland and occupation and all that kind of stuff. But that's in the past. And we've grown up and got over it, and nobody cares anymore. I don't think about her or anything.
It's a funny one because even though it's technically the same part of the same union or whatever, but you guys are separated by the sea. You know, so that must feel strange that someone across in a different country is actually has a say in what's going on in Ireland.
Well, she doesn't have a say in the Republic of Ireland, obviously, but in Northern Ireland, yes. I mean, in in the south in the Republic where I live, I don't think anybody.
Is that where you come from?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People just look at her and go,
Okay.
"Oh, look, it's a lovely jacket," or "Oh, she looks like my granny." You know what I mean? We don't really people don't really care.
Your gran looks like a reptile.
Ever so slightly. Yeah. When she blinks and you freeze frame her
Yep.
videos on YouTube,
Yep.
very very slowly, you can see she's got like
The blink sideways.
yeah, the sideways blink
Yeah.
reptile eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
But
I
we still
never-
love her. I mean, she's our nan. You know what I mean?
I've never seen it. You know when you see what's his name, the conspiracy
Oh,
David Icke.
Yeah, yeah.
You know when he slows them down, he's like, "Look,
yeah, look.
there's
like,
a lizard eye,"
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like, "No."
don't see it. Sorry, man. David Icke actually. I remember watching his. I had a friend who was really into conspiracy theories, way back before, it was all over the internet, like way back. And he had these DVDs of David Icke, and he had us all sit down one Saturday night having beers, and he was like, "You need to watch this. Like, this guy is just, you need to watch this. It's revelatory."
Yeah.
So we're okay, we'll watch it. So we're watching David Icke, first DVD of 3, right? First DVD.
I assume they're like
Jesus.
4 hours each.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, Jesus, this guy's making sense. Right? Then there was a second one. It was like all these symbolism
Yeah.
and world governments, and we're like, fuck, we're gonna have to leave our lives and take up the fight and the struggle against the one world government. This is insane. Then we watched the third one. It's like, oh, hang on. Everyone's a reptile. You've lost us, David. You lost. We invested 8 hours in 2 DVDs, and the third one he lost.
That's how he
us,
gets you. Like he just puts all the juicy stuff at the front and then hits you with the T's and C's at the end, which is, lizards.
Yeah, lizards. Sign here, initial here and here. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So
I think he appeals to a lot of people who between maybe sort of 18 and 20, 23. My father has a habit of calling at the worst times,
Oh, say hi,
and he's
Dad.
doing it now. I might actually do
yeah,
that.
go on, put him on.
Dad, I'm on the podcast live.
Hi, Dad.
Right, okay. Am I on it too?
Yeah,
Yes, you were.
you're on it just now.
Can I?
I'm on the podcast.
Oh, what a great
My
voice.
son's podcast.
Get him to say, "All right, pal," please.
He wants you to say, "All right, pal."
All right, pal.
Oh, that's magic. All right, pal. Oh, I love it.
Right,
I
Dad.
want to use all these guys out there listening to my son's podcast.
He's gonna,
Contribute to him.
I feel like he's going to be waiting outside for me. He's like, yeah, I'll see you later.
If you're not good, he's going to bash you in.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Dad, thanks for your 5 minutes of fame, and I'll speak to you later.
Right, okay, son.
Right, bye.
Right, I'll get you tomorrow, okay?
Right, see you later, Dad.
Sort out your car.
Okay.
What, did he crash your car or something?
No, my dad's always, because he's from Glasgow,
Yeah.
he's always accumulating vehicles.
Okay.
It's just like
You say accumulating. Do you mean
Yes.
stealing?
No,
procuring?
well,
Oh,
yeah, like
right,
he used
yeah.
to, and I think
Yeah.
he's aspired to like higher things in life.
Okay.
So now he purchases them.
Oh, lovely.
But
very
yeah, he's kind of like a sort of magpie when he sees cars. He's just like,
That one.
yeah, I want that one. And
Where's he keep him? Has he got like...
well, on the street, and
Okay.
many people are complaining. It's like a scrap heap
It's a bit of
outside.
an issue, actually, with the local council.
I think he has a boat as well up there or something.
Right, on
but
top of a car, probably. Just sticking out at this odd angle, you know.
we're not pikeys.
Yeah,
Can
no,
you say
I'd
that?
you can. I won't.
That is funny.
Yeah, hilarious. Yeah.
Do people think that you're maybe, when they hear your accent and
Yeah.
they're ignorant English people, I assume, do they ask if you're sort of a pikey, or do you know anyone who is a pikey?
That's never happened.
Right.
I'm
I'm not saying that all
no.
Irish people are.
No, no.
Okay.
Good. Good. No, that's never happened. I don't think anybody's ever
Okay.
questioned my ethnicity.
Half caveman, I
It's
presume.
never happened. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously the accent to my ear is very, very different.
Yeah.
Obviously, but I can understand that an Irish accent broadly to somebody who is not used to hearing specific Irish accents are like, oh, that's all the one accent.
Mhm.
But yeah, the accent range is hugely diverse in Ireland. You know.
It's the same in Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it is in Ireland,
Yeah.
but you can go 15 miles down the road from my hometown, and it's a stronger and really different accent, you know. I don't even know why. Maybe because it's had 100 years to sort of boil and come to fruition, and then it becomes like a different accent. So places like America, they've not had the time for them to be sort of insulated and
for long enough. Yeah. Because I think that's obviously makes sense that if you take like small community, Ireland is hugely rural population in small towns and small villages, generally quite close to each other. But if you go back to the days before transportation and the days before electrification and all that, communities were like established, and they literally were isolated from each other. Even like 10 miles down the road, they never really, they wouldn't have interacted as much. So the accent developed in isolation, and then so America didn't have the opportunity to do that, which is why it's more homogenous. I would imagine. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
KP.
Thanks.
That's a good point.
Listen to the podcast for woke things.
WKE. We don't even use vowels.
Do you say woke in Ireland?
People say woke.
I use it ironically.
Yeah, I got that. Fine-tuned ear for the irony. They do use it, yeah. More, I think younger people use it, and woke people themselves tend to use it about themselves. I don't particularly say the word woke unless I'm being ironic, but I think there's a massive bleed of US terminology just floating across the Atlantic and sticking in people's throats. And
I wonder why it's very specific to a type of a certain type of knowledge, though. It's like something about being sort of socially woke, I guess, as opposed to actual,
whatever
knowledge.
happened to just knowing shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the internet, everyone knows shit.
Yeah,
I guess.
think they do anyway. Well that's the problem, like lizard people on videos. No, it's like, I don't know. For me, there's people are trying very, very, very hard to be up to date on all the latest lingo and stuff like that, and that's not to devalue language that should change over time in relation to certain things, but I think people are very, very conscious of using buzzwords, and I think it maybe sometimes devalues the message they're trying to get across.
And I think probably, I assume, as a comedian, you're very aware of the language that you're using. And is it something that's changed over the last however many years, the way that the society has changed? Is it something that you've noticed that you've had to maybe modify, or anyone that has to change what they're doing essentially?
Yeah, personally, I mean, it's like anything. I mean, if you look back at comedy from the 70s, or you look back even from the 80s, there's comedy there that, like, of its time, and, like, now people would be like, and not even, like, liberal people, but, like, general population would be like, Jesus, did they just say that? Because that's not that long ago, you know? So I think everybody's kind of moved forward in that respect.
Would you care to give an example?
Oh, God. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one, to be perfectly honest. But like, there would have been a lot of impersonations of people from Asia, or people from Africa, and that kind of stuff. A lot of accent impersonations that were,
or even Eddie Murphy was notorious.
Eddie Murphy was notorious. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of people who were just, I guess, naive to what they were doing, really, more than anything else. And now people are aware you're probably not supposed to say certain things or do certain things, and that's not to say you can't do things. Anything can be funny, to my mind, if the intent behind it is not to cause like massive offense to a particular person. I think you can be funny about anything, and you can say pretty much anything you want if the intent is pure, if you know what I mean, and you're not literally just like, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to do a racist bit tonight because racism, that's not going to work.
But this is a point of contention just now, especially with intent. Now, people don't know whether you're being, if you might not be intentionally trying to harm someone with your words, or talk ill about anyone, but at the same time, there's people that don't know that you're joking,
Yeah, so but it's like offense in the eye of the beholder type thing.
That's totally it,
I mean, I've seen some comics in Dublin do some pretty, like, say some pretty insane things, but the delivery and the way it was written and the way it was, like, composed as an entire set had an audience laughing. Yeah. And equally, I've seen people play similar rooms and do stuff that was way less offensive and piss an audience off. Right. Because the delivery or the writing or the set in general, it's just a bit sloppy. You know what I mean?
But is that down to the person's personality and intent, or is it just down to their lack of experience in their craft?
I think both, if I'm being honest. Right. So I think that like really, really good writers can probably get away with edgier stuff than people who are starting out and maybe are finding their feet and how to write stuff and how to get stuff to blend into a set. So I think it's probably a bit of both, to be honest.
God knows how Frankie Boyle started.
Jeez, I wouldn't like to see him starting out now. No way.
Do you think he's changed a little?
I haven't really been watching him in recent times, to be honest, but to my mind, I don't think he's changed. I mean, he's controversial.
He seems to be more politicized.
Yeah, but that came born out of his writing for the newspapers, you know, and that I think, so maybe that was incidental. I think a lot of what he writes is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, pretty interesting to read.
Solid.
Yeah, solid stuff. So I like it. Woke even. So to say. But
Ironically.
no, I think he's a really really good writer. So I think that when you read that kind of stuff that he writes in the papers, for example, you can see the thought processes and the structure that obviously goes into his offensive comedy that he writes. You know, because another person trying to do what he does, I don't think he would get away with as much on the stage as he gets away with. And that's the same for a lot of comics of that kind of style, you know, I think.
I wonder if there's something that he's had to think about in recent years is his own act, because who's he going to piss off, you know?
He's pretty much pissed everyone off.
But I always find that he prefaces his line very well. Like, he has this whole sort of, like, it's quite heartfelt, a lot of what he says, and then he adds a joke, you know, like maybe not like George Carlin, but George Carlin was very, like, you know, he talked a lot, and he had great points, and then it was funny just because he was this old guy just, you know, shouting. But with Frankie, he always finishes this sort of rant off with an amazing sort of offensive joke.
It's just, again, that's probably just a different style in the payoff. Like Carlin was very much like you said, a big, long, an old guy giving it to you, holding a mirror up to you and making you realise the daft thing you believe in or do every day of your life. And then at the end of it, like throwing in just a little barb and making you feel like, oh God, he's right. I'm a complete idiot. You know? Whereas Frankie's approach is different. At the very end, it's more of a flip the table, offensive one-liner joke at the end of it, like, and it brings the audience right out, because they're kind of waiting for that payoff with Frankie. So like, and you see the same with any comedian that people know well. If you know a comedian well, you're invested in it already, so you kind of know how it's going to go, and you're waiting for your payoff. Whereas if he was new doing it, I think it could be a lot of like ashen-faced people in audiences when he gives the payoff punchline. They'd be like, why would he say that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is something I've thought a lot about, and it's not something that we hear in relation to British comedy. We hear a lot of say like Tom Segura. I don't know if you're aware of the backlash in one of his latest specials using the word retard, and he made a joke about Louisiana as well, and there was a lot of backlash about that. So we hear the backlash in the guise of the American side of things. So I've not heard much when it comes to British comedy, and it's good to hear that side of it.
Yeah, I think like when you say the word retard, for example, like words have taken on a lot of power, like in recent times, that people are standing up. I think the difference between now and years ago is people who are offended by a word are willing to stand up and go, actually, I don't like that word, and they give the reasons why they don't like it. So like when I grew up, the word retard obviously didn't mean a person with a disability, because it had been removed from that context for years. It had just become an everyday parlance for like, you're an idiot. You know what I mean?
Like nudging your best friend and be like, oh, you're a retard.
Right, and that's the way it was meant. But at the same time, and I would have been of the opinion for a long time that that's what the word means. That's what it means to me. If my friend says that to me, I know what it means. At the same time, I know my friend doesn't have any ill will or anything towards a person with a disability. In fact, it's probably, you know, a perfectly normal person with perfectly normal sympathies towards anybody with any ailment. But just because I don't think there's a problem with it, does that mean that nobody should have a problem with it? So I think for me, you talk about changing words, changing styles. I would have had to, I guess, listen to people's opinions on that and go, okay, that's a fair point, because you're more closely connected to what that word used to mean than I am. So maybe me dropping it as an everyday word for you're an idiot is a simple thing for me to do, to stop somebody like you feeling offended by it because you have a closer connection to it. So I think there's certain words we can definitely let go of without any major issue. You know, I'm not manning the barricades like bring back retard. You know, you know, that'd be insane. But I think we have to grow up as a people and just literally let go of words that cause offense. But I don't think we should stop causing offense.
No.
In terms of, you know, politically or with comedy or anything like that.
Your view has to be challenged a lot, and comedy does that in a big way. You know, when you go to watch someone, even someone you like, not a lot of the time you won't even agree with what they're saying, but the way that they spin it is funny, you know, and it makes you think about what they're talking about. It's not that they're advocating, you know, calling people retards.
No.
It's just we need these conversations.
Well, if you shut down everything, then you have no more conversations. Then I think what you do is you drive the opinions you're trying to uncover, which are negative. You drive those underground and into like online communities and groupings and and strange dark places, and then that ends up becoming a much bigger problem than a throwaway comment or a remark that's designed to cause offence with a view to starting a conversation. So I think that we have to be careful with the balance there. So it's a huge issue, like free speech versus offence versus everything else, you know. So like, fortunately, I'm not the world's most offensive comedian, but some of my stuff is a little edgy and like, I
You're
think
hilarious, actually. I was watching a lot of your stuff leading up to this. You know, it was great.
Thanks very much.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah, I bought him a beer for that.
You brought my own beer in here. Like, just to sort of emphasize what we're talking about when it comes to people can have a different opinions on what is offensive. I sort of do you remember the stuff with Count Dankula?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the guy who's a troll ship poster, you know, self-proclaimed, and he taught his little pug to do the Nazi salute on command. I think he got arrested and he got charged with it. Some people found the video hilarious, and some people thought it was terrible. You know, it was, especially in relation to what happened in World War II.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But there was a lot of people that jumped on the backlash bandwagon. I'm not saying it was right or wrong what he did. You know, it's all about how you think about these things and how you take it. But there was I think a comedy store. It's not called the Comedy Store, but it was a comedy store down in England, and they showed the video live on a massive projector in front of all these progressive comics, and they were filming their reaction, and they were laughing, like they were killing themselves laughing watching this video of this guy making this little cute pug doing the Nazi salute. And it was all about context. You know, that's the big issue that we're facing just now, is context.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that, but I mean, then you're back to, like, does this guy have actual Nazi sympathies and is training his pug to do a Nazi salute because he believes what happened in World War II was a great thing? Or is this guy just thoughtless and goes, do you know what would be gas? Do you know what would be hilarious? Forget the pugs, do a Nazi salute. And if it was literally that flippant, then it's more of a stupid idea than it is like a repugnant assault on society. So I think then we're back to intent again, you know? What's the intent?
And I think that we have the context with that video. You know, we're not seeing. I don't think he's a Nazi sympathizer. You know, I think he's just a troll.
You
know,
just deliberately trying to cause. So again,
I tried to get him on the podcast.
Did you?
Yeah, because he's Scottish. I never knew. Because I just saw the images of the dog, not his actual voice.
Got the dog on, man.
I don't know. Maybe I'll get him to do it on command. Maybe.
Just keep that paw down. You keep that paw down.
Don't mention the N-word. The other one, obviously, but he just didn't sort of reply. But I thought it would have been a great platform to talk about what happened and sort of people to get a context of what happened and what his thought process, not just the sort of shitstorm that came after it, and then he obviously got arrested. You know.
Well, I think when anything like that happens, the shitstorm can overshadow the actual act or the event or whatever caused it in the first place, and then that becomes the centerpiece of attention rather than the original act, and then it becomes a conversation about the fallout instead of a conversation about what caused it in the first place, and then you get completely far removed from the whole point initially, and it just ends up a shit show.
I think a lot of people are complaining because they think they're losing their freedom of speech with something like that. There was a lot of people that jumped on board with it. There was a lot of right wingers as well saying, like, you know, this is the way the country's going. I don't think it's that. I just think it was an exception, that case. I don't think it's going to become the rule.
I don't think people are going to get dragged off stages. I mean, I remember the time the hype people were talking about the Edinburgh Fringe and are people going to get dragged off stages for saying offensive things? Like that's, I don't believe that's going to happen. It's not going to turn into a police state overnight because one dog gives a Nazi salute. Do you know what I mean? So I think there was like massive overreaction on all sides in relation to that. I think, you know, maybe don't teach your dog to be anti-Semitic and, you know, it'll be grand. And then people can say generally anything else.
I was more offended that a grown man had a pug, to be honest.
I hate pugs.
I hate little dogs.
Flat faced.
I know.
Can't
it's
breathe.
a shame as well, you know.
Because it shouldn't be like they're being bred because people like that the fact they look like humans, right? Now,
or they're cute, you know.
Yeah, but they're cute because they've got the flat face, so it reminds you of yourself, like, you know, right?
What are you trying to say?
Well, you know.
Well, I for one am offended now
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
come on my podcast.
Well, you
Call me
know.
a flat-nosed pug.
Well, pug nose, flat face is what I was actually thinking. But,
It's a repugnant comment.
Hey, and we'll just leave it there, will we? We'll just-
So how does someone in Ireland grow up and become part of the comedy scene? Because it's something that's
you
not.
don't grow up. That's how you become part of the comedy
right.
scene. Yeah, you
Okay.
don't grow up at all. Yeah.
Because I grew up through music. That's something that's natural to me, playing on stage and touring around. But the comedy side of it is sort of alien to me a little bit. It's not something like I like to see comedy. I like to watch it, but I've never thought of the idea of someone making their profession. So how do you go from, like, what's the sort of the curve to get up there?
Well, I mean, so obviously there's lots of different ways. Everything starts with open mics, but I mean, if you want to take it right back to how people end up in comedy, like you have people talking about hard luck stories and tough lives. No, I didn't have that. Right? So I was perfectly fine. It's great.
Well adjusted.
Yeah. Lovely young man. But
That's what should be on your poster.
lovely young man.
Quotation by
That's
your
next
gran.
year's show. Yeah. she only give me 3 stars. 3 stars. Lovely young man, but not
Out of
that
10.
funny. Yeah, not that funny. Yeah, out of 10. Yeah. No, like I mean, look, Irish people generally have I think a reputation for being maybe witty
Storytellers.
and storytelling and comedy is kind of natural self-depreciation and dealing with tragedy, historically true humor and dark humor and that kind of stuff. So I think that
Just to interject a little bit, is that something that reflects in the sort of the how you talk and how you sort of interact as well? Is that something?
Yeah, I think
Because
so. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, like for example, you know, it's probably the same in Scotland, but like the people who are closest to you, the people you insult the most, you know, and you make fun of the most, the people who are closest to you. Other cultures and countries can't understand or fathom the things you would say to your good friend or your family member. Why would you say that? You know,
even the word cunt horrifies a lot of people because they don't have that sort of intent that we all say it to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it's back to intent again. And I think that's changing slightly in Ireland now. I think more in the cities and the younger generations, that word has become a whole new meaning.
Right.
Whereas if you go to rural Ireland and meet an old guy standing on a ditch, like, you know, he could be
shouting on his sheet.
It's just like it's every second word. You know, it's like the weather is it. You know, everything is the fields, the animals, everything's just overuse. You know, but without that intent and without the same meaning that it now has.
Yeah.
So I think again, there's a word that will be gone in 20 years.
You think so?
I think it'll be, yeah.
Okay.
In everyday usage, and it will take on the meaning. So here's the irony, right? That word will take on the meaning that people who are offended now have,
right?
Whereas it will lose the benign meaning it used to have because people are offended by it now when it doesn't have the bad meaning.
Right.
So it will actually become more of a bad word as time progresses.
That's
in
very,
Ireland,
very loaded.
I would think. Yeah, that's it. Is it?
But
how strong is this beer? Am I saying loaded things? I am. Yeah, I'm saying loaded things.
It's good. But just a little shout out to the unofficial sponsors of the show.
Thanks very much.
Brewdog.
Thanks, Brewdog.
Cheers, Brewdog. Don't sue little old grannies.
Yeah, don't anymore for accidental misuse of brand. I'll pop by your pub actually if you happen to listen to the podcast.
Come.
Give me a free pint.
Yeah. So how did you end up? Did you end up getting into comedy?
Personally, I always had an interest in it. I always watched comedy as a kid. My parents are both very funny people.
Right.
They're not comedians, but both very, very funny, very dry, dark sense of humor. So I grew up around that. And then fast way forward, I started with an open mic night, and I think that's what most people do. You get the courage up to get up there, and
were you nervous?
Oh yeah, your palms are sweaty, like your mouth goes.
Calm down, MMA.
I've actually said that a few times. Palms are sweaty.
Did you have mom spaghetti on your
top? Over my top. It was just what a mess.
I can imagine that though, like something that you want to do, but it's at the beginning. Obviously, there's a lot of people that don't like starting over again and sort of learning from the bottom up. So that fear that must be in there when you did your first set.
Daunting, very, very daunting.
How long did you do?
I think I did about 7 minutes the very first time.
How did it go?
It actually went okay.
Right, okay.
But it wasn't like now. If I was to look back, if I was to do it now, I wouldn't be doing that 7 at Edinburgh. But it went okay. I got laughs. The audience were reasonably happy. It was a reasonably full room. But there was other comedians there who were obviously experienced comedians, and I think they were in testing material type thing at an open mic. And I was completely new, so I was drinking water at the back of the room. Every sip I took was like evaporating from the desert. My mouth just went dry again straight away. Went up, went blank for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, it felt like 30 seconds. Literally went blank. Everything I'd planned to say just disappeared.
Right.
You hear the expression going blank.
Yeah.
But I'd never actually gone blank before. And literally, it's like
It was
just
a new feeling to you. Yeah.
just nothingness.
Yeah.
And then it came back. I started, and your hands are shaking like this as you're trying to do it. And you're trying to hold the mic in the mic stand, and you're like, yeah, and another thing, and you eventually get through it. But when you get off, the adrenaline buzz is just you can't. It's insane.
Much like, I guess, similar to music, but you're
yeah.
performing as a band, so
Yeah.
obviously there's parts of it that are not in your control.
Yeah. And you have I think you have a bit of a buffer as a musician as well, not devaluing music
No,
or anything, but as a
completely.
musician,
You have the
ha-
instrument in front of
between you and,
yeah.
and the audience is this
Yeah.
device of, and unless you rap, you can't actually play the thing, then you've that element of safety, whereas
Yeah, true.
as a comedian, it's just it's
Your
you're
voice.
straight there, you've nothing, like you've no fallback,
Wow.
and you can't turn around and go, well,
Can't sing.
yeah, let's do another one. Yeah,
Take two.
Yeah.
I fluffed that one.
And no one's going to shout up in a comedy gig and go, do you know that one by Billy Connolly? Can you do the Billy Connolly joke?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
it's
we love
me,
that
Billy
one.
Connolly.
Yeah. It's just not going to happen. So I think music, yes, obviously, look, the same adrenaline, the same of any performance.
Yeah.
But you have that almost like a safety barrier or a safety net to fall back on slightly if things go wrong. Whereas
Yeah.
comedy, if it goes wrong, you're just screwed for the next however many minutes you have left on the stage.
7 minutes is quite a long time for your first stand up.
Yeah, it's an eternity. And so like 5-7 would generally be your stand up
Yeah.
set for an open mic or whatever, and it's daunting. Like
Yeah.
it feels like you feel like you're there for an hour. You really do. You really, really do.
And so, what was the space of time between when you said I'm gonna do stand up, and from when you did your first set?
I probably spent 2 or 3 years saying, yeah, I'd love to try that.
Yeah.
I'd love to get up there, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'll look into it another time, to the point of actually doing it. Now, that doesn't mean I spent 2 or 3 years furiously preparing to do
Yeah.
it. It just meant that it was in my head,
Yeah.
and I just never got the balls up to do it. And then thankfully I eventually did. Yeah.
That's crazy. I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's your voice and that's it, and your thoughts,
Yeah. Your
and you have to
insane
make
thoughts.
them. You have to make people laugh.
Yeah, with
like-
all your offensive words.
Cunt. Did you just say that for 7 minutes?
Yeah, just over and over again. Yeah, in different accents. Yeah. It's like, all right, pal.
Cunt, which is South African. So-
Is it?
No, I
No,
just
you
made that
just
up.
made it up. Yeah, I figured it wasn't South African.
That's one of my favorite accents. Is a South American, African, not South American. Well, South American too.
There's
Obviously.
like the
All the Souths.
the Afrikaner one, the heavy
Afrikaans.
Like, yeah.
One of my favorite bands is The Antwoord. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
You never heard of them?
Diamford, I don't think so.
It's The Antwoord.
No.
Yeah, so it's DIE,
Yeah.
and then Antwoord is like AN.
It's like that old Dutch
Yeah.
Afrikaans language, yeah.
Check them out.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you've never heard of them.
Well, yeah,
But they're a hip hop group.
okay.
But they have a thing called Zeph, which is like middle class bling.
okay,
That's their thing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
a
maybe I have heard of them.
Yeah.
I just don't remember the name, but I'll check them out.
yeah. It's a white guy and a white girl,
Okay.
and they're awesome. Check them out, and if anyone's listening, I hope then check that out as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully they're not crap.
They're strange,
It'd be embarrassing.
because I did I've done MMA for like the last 7 years,
Yeah.
and one of my I was the hipster in the club. I was the guy that was dressed in skinny jeans and
Yeah,
had
yeah.
the beard. The tunnels in my ear. So I
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
but to my group of friends and to everyone in the rest of the world, I wasn't a hipster. I was just normal.
Yeah.
But for that club,
You were like
I was
total
hipster.
Yeah.
and my coach Sloaney was like, "Oh, you're a complete hipster," and I was like, "I'm not." He's like, "What music are you coming out to?" And I was like, "South African hip hop." And he's like, "You're a hipster."
Fantastic. Yeah. And then it dawned on you, oh my god, I am a hipster. Like, yeah. That's yeah. I've never South African hip hop. I like hip hop. I like French hip hop.
Right.
Actually,
Okay.
I couldn't tell you one particular
Right.
artist. I tend to go onto like Spotify or YouTube, depending, and search for styles of music.
Mm-hmm.
if I'm working on something, and I'll French hip hop because the words don't distract you because I don't speak French.
Do you think it's something to do with the tempo that's maybe appeals to you?
Yeah,
Like the rhythm of someone's voice?
The rhythm of French in hip hop.
Yeah.
And the way it flows is really cool. God, two hipsters talking about French hip hop. Jeez, this podcast took a turn.
I've heard some Bulgarian hip hop as well. There's some really good.
We're trying to out country one another at hip hop. Well, actually, I was in Uzbekistan.
Oh, great!
I was in an Uzbek hip hop troupe. So
well, I was actually playing banjo in an Inuit hip hop group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What are they called?
I got the old blue balls, so I can go up. Obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's a hazard of Igloo hip hop.
That is another word as well. Like, I heard recently that Inuit is probably more offensive because it is not an Inuit word.
That's an interesting sentence.
Eskimo is what the Native Americans called each other.
Okay.
So the Eskimos are the shoemakers, the ice shoemakers. That's what the other Native Americans used to call them.
Okay.
So that's why they're called Eskimos.
That's very interesting.
It was only English that came along and called them Inuits.
So it was just like a label that was put on them.
Yeah. Supposedly, don't take my word for it. You know, I'm
David
not.
Icke.
There's a bunch of lizard people running about the Arctic.
I'll, that's interesting now, yeah. But see, there you go again. There's something that somebody would be using perfectly innocently as a word. Never having even thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe somebody might be offended by it.
But
probably not many Eskimos in the audience in Edinburgh. Hopefully, God, somebody's going to accost me in the street now. I was listening to that podcast.
I have my laptop handy, so I will just make sure I'm not talking out my arse.
Yeah. Which is I've listened to a few of your podcasts.
I know talk out my arse quite a lot.
Highly possible. Yeah.
So it is a word that's on Google. Okay.
Well,
so supposedly Wikipedia says Eskimo is an English term for indigenous peoples.
So
I'm talking shit.
You're talking complete bollocks.
I've been talking like this as fact recently.
You even have a fact posture, which I think which is quite
in
something.
fact,
it's quite something to watch.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm talking crap.
So that was completely. So that was a complete waste.
So
of
ignore
time.
those last 2 minutes of my life.
You offended the wrong people with the right word.
Yeah, it's all right. They won't survive down here. It's too hot.
I'm not surviving down here. How are they going to cope? It's insane.
Okay, so we want to promote. I'll put this in the camera. This is Brian's show.
Yes, it is.
With the lovely Anna Clifford.
Yeah.
Who was not liking my poster where I
well,
scribbled.
You replaced her face with your own logo. I loved it. I just want to say that. I loved it because she'd hate it, which is great.
I just want to be a blonde woman. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's what I identify as.
You identify as a blonde woman? Yeah.
A comedian blonde woman.
Right, a comic blonde.
Yeah.
You're funny.
But not that funny.
So that's the show, Ladybeard. Guys. That's the show. Okay. Ladybeard, Kilderkin, Venue 227 if you're in Edinburgh for the Fringe. Full run, except the 16th.
Cool.
It's a nice room, actually. I was just down there today checking it out and putting up flyers and stuff.
So you got to your first gig. How do you go from getting on the local stage to being a Fringe comedian?
You just keep going, I think, is the simple answer to that. So, like, a lot of people, I don't say this disparagingly, but a lot of people start and then find the next level of comfort zone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like for me, my comfort zone was going, I'd always like to try comedy, and then I started going to watch a lot of comedy, and that was my comfort zone for a long time. And then I think when you make that jump to do your first open mic, you can make that your next big long comfort zone, and then you go on to like trying to get into the next level, and again a big long comfort zone. So I think that if you're confident enough in your material and you're writing a lot and you're trying to get it right and you're conscious of audience feedback, and you're brutally honest with how you're performing, so like record every single gig, listen back ruthlessly, because a gig will never be as bad as you thought it was, and you'll never have performed as good as you thought you did, because you never remember things in reality. You know, you come off and you go, that was amazing. You'll listen back and you'll rip through 4 minutes of it and go, that was they have to go, you know. So I think if you're ruthless like that and you plan your next move, be that like getting in contact with the right clubs, sending out videos, sending out messages, trying to meet people and saying, hey, can I get a shot here? And I think then slowly but surely your name will get out there, and if you're doing good sets and you're making rooms laugh, then you'll naturally keep going, you know. So yeah, I think everybody stay where you need to stay for only as long as you should be a little bit uncomfortable going to the next level.
Okay.
You shouldn't be kind of going, now I'm ready. Because if you think now I'm ready, you're probably, you should have gone before
you're not
then.
ready.
You should have gone before, probably. Just go and see how it goes, you know.
You must see a lot of comedians that stay in that comfort zone, maybe people that you admire, and then maybe you get to a level where you've surpassed them in a way, and that must be sort of disheartening to see that, especially if it's someone you like. Yeah,
there's a comedian in Dublin, I won't name them, but they're really, really good writer. And they threaten to give up comedy every 10 minutes. And then I actually recently got them to come to Cork and support me for a show I was doing down there in advance of coming to Fringe, and I got them to come down and support me. And like they did really, there was a room full of seasoned comics there who were going, God, that joke was really well put together in relation to this person's writing.
Right.
But they're a writer.
Okay.
Outside their comfort zone in stand-up, and perhaps feel more comfortable writing than doing stand-up. But then, for me, I'm like, just get up there, because it's brilliant. Like, you can do it if you just keep doing it.
Doesn't matter how you deliver it. It's so good that it would just stand out.
It stands out on its own, but then, like, my mind is going, if you just keep gigging, your delivery will get better. Yeah. Your writing's way up there anyway, so then you'll be amazing. Whereas maybe that's not for that person. Yeah. Maybe they just want to write good stuff, and don't want to...
It's funny that's a thing, that there are some people out there that are better writers than they are comedians. And I think when you see these people go up, is it the love of trying to be a stand-up, or is it the love of writing and trying to show off their work that they're up there?
Some people, it's not even about showing off work. I mean, where some people are even reluctant to share what they've written, but end up in this weird like loop where they have to get on stage and do it and then hate themselves for doing it and so on and so forth, right? It's really bizarre. You have a mix of things. You've got really great performers, number one, right, who can deliver anything and add 40% to it by virtue of their delivery and their stage presence and their craft. And then you've got people whose writing is more, they're like their writing adds 40%, but they're rare to find the perfect balance of somebody whose writing and performance is on the same level. So I think it's you're always trying to work on one or the other. If you know,
but they're never equal.
Obviously, okay. There's professionals out there who are like, show 1,000-seaters venues they're filling. They're probably up there on it. But I think everybody has deficiencies either in one or the other, and has to try and find that balance.
It's funny when you start to see. It's like the sort of Oz effect, I guess. Like you see behind the curtain, and I don't see it because I've not tried to do a stand-up, but you must watch people who are doing like even like a special on TV, and can you notice like patterns and things that they're trying to do, and things that are not working, and something that maybe they're lacking in their performance as well, and those are things that just go over my head. But I find it interesting that you would be able to just see that.
You'd spot things sometimes, like you'd spot if something's not working. And this wouldn't necessarily be applicable to a special as such, but in terms of bigger comics doing rooms or venues, if you can spot when something's not working for them, and then the hallmark of a really good comic is how quickly they can go from reading that room that this isn't quite settling in, and then subtly going into another area, and maybe with some favorites that they know are going to bring the room back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's always really interesting to watch how long they give it before they just literally abort mission and go into something else to try and bring the audience back. Like, that's always really fun to watch, and watching people when they forget stuff as well is always funny. When somebody forgets where they're going to go next, like the classic is you see a comedian going at the end of a bit, they might have finished something about houses, for example, for want of a better word I can think of right now. So they might be talking about houses or jokes about houses, and then they finish that, and you feel like it should naturally be going somewhere, but they kind of go, yeah, oh man, houses. Yeah, and in their head they're going, what the fuck is the next bit? Right. What's the next bit? And they're just filling time with that kind of. But the audience, as an audience member, you never feel that. You always feel like, oh, it's still funny. He's still, he thought it was funny too.
You can see them thinking.
You can see the clock cogs going in the background, trying to get them to the next bit that they've obviously misplaced in the hubris of a good punchline or something. So it is very interesting, to watch the machinations of someone's mind on stage, And
do you think it affects how you perceive comedy now, because you're always judging? It's like when someone studies psychology, they can never have a genuine interaction with someone
or find love. Never find love.
Really? I've never heard that one. Are they psychopaths?
You're a narcissist. You found love the day you were born.
I couldn't speak when I was born, so hugged myself
You couldn't
profusely.
speak when you were born.
No,
Or could
I
you
tried
cry?
to.
You just
Yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't speak.
Good
I
one.
mumbled.
You were like, all right, pal.
Oh.
What was I saying there?
You were talking about just seeing people at work when they're doing stand up, and that is that is a crazy thing, because as a person that's watching it just purely to laugh, I don't see these rhythms or whatever and potholes that they might be facing inwardly. But to you, you're watching someone at work.
Yeah,
you know, when you see them doing it,
you're rarely surprised anymore, I suppose, when you're doing a lot. So like, it's great if you're surprised. So if you see a punchline lands that you didn't see coming, or a callback that you didn't kind of in your head. Sometimes you'll hear a build up, and in your head you're going, "Oh, a great callback now would be something like this," and then you're kind of waiting, you're hoping, and if it comes, you're like, "That was very good writing."
I'm smart.
So you're just boring, really. You become very boring. You don't enjoy comedy as much as you did before you did it. I think you enjoy it, but you enjoy it differently. So
Right.
I enjoy the writing much more than I enjoy the delivery.
Okay.
So I've often sat through sets where I probably didn't laugh out loud and came away going, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was really well written. And maybe that's not what comedy's about at all. You know, maybe nobody should come away going, that was really well written. Maybe you should just come away having laughed. But I look for and admire good writing.
Yeah.
That for me is what I enjoy when I go to comedy sets, to see really good, clever writing. But then again, you can go see some slapstick stuff that's just off the wall, and it's funny, which is what it's meant to be funny, you know.
Is there anyone you sort of admire and follow that are sort of professional comics at this point?
Professional comics, Stuart Lee. I really like Stuart Lee. Always liked Stuart Lee. He would stand up for me. Dylan Moran, obviously Tommy Tiernan, Billy Connolly, all the George Carlin, all that kind of school would have been a real. I would have followed them quite a lot and been really interested in them. But then like there's a comedian from Belfast called Paul Curry.
Okay.
He's at the Fringe actually. I think his show is called Hot Donkey or something like that. It's really absurd stuff. Like it's surreal, absurd stuff. I mean, sometimes he doesn't even say anything. Like, it's just you'd have to see it to experience it. I did a gig. I was on the same bill as him in Dublin for a gig, and it was just fantastic. Like, it was so out there, you know, completely different. And again, that's nice to see something completely different. It is nice. So, but there's a lot of good comics out there, you know.
I mean, I didn't have a favourite when I was growing up. I remember watching Eddie Murphy's Raw and all those type of ones, and it was funny because it was an experience as opposed to, I didn't understand it at the time. It was just, you know, it was someone doing something amazing like that they loved to do. I remember I used to love Bill Bailey, and I went to see Tinsel Worm, I think was one of the ones he did. I didn't like that tour as much.
Tend to like Bill Bailey a lot, though.
He's phenomenal. And one of the ones that I've always tried to tell people about is Al Murray. He's just
pub landlord.
I didn't get it when I was younger. Like, I thought it was just, this is a guy with a shtick, you know. But the intelligence that goes behind his sets and the callbacks and remembering every individual sort of person's name that he's interacted with, he's a phenomenal.
There's the conundrum there for him, and I actually had a conversation about this recently with somebody. It was in relation to something else, but in terms of Al Murray, does he end up in a situation where half his audience love him because they take it at face value, Al Murray, the pub landlord, and half his audience love him because, like you said, really clever, really well written. So like, he's not turning away 50% of people at the door going, well, actually, no, I'm not letting you in because you believe everything I say at face value. So it must be an awkward spot for an artist or a comedian to be in. Yeah.
I mean, he could be lumped into a lot of categories just on face value.
Yeah, which obviously it's not meant to be taken at face value. But there's the problem. He can't exactly put on his flyer, do not take at face value. Yeah. You know, so awkward.
Is there any American comedians that you like as well?
Dave Chappelle. Right. But going back to the classics. Yeah, classic stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't have anybody right now that I'm massively
Did you watch his recent set of stand?
I watched one of them.
Yeah,
it was okay. Yeah, it was good, but it was I think I was expecting more because I was coming at it from a point of view of having the nostalgia of what I'd seen previously, the old stuff. So
do you think it was too long? Do you think you waited too long?
I think he did, but then again, when his infamy and cult status was amplified by virtue of how long he waited. So there may never have been a right time for him to pop back. You know, we could easily be sitting here going, "Do you think it was too soon?" You know what I mean? So there was never a right time for him to come back.
Yeah.
But I do think I think it was of a time. I don't think, and that's not in relation to material. I just think he was in a sweet spot at a certain point in time, and that's now gone. I think, you know, which is a pity.
Yeah, it's like when you see a sportsman come back like 10 years later.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, I don't even feel the same way about you anymore.
Yeah,
but you're sort
they
of
forget to take out the cigar and everything. You know. Like, oh, I hold that.
all the gold rings.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
I've ran out of money, essentially.
Yeah.
Like when Johnny Depp does another movie, and you're just like,
more wine, Johnny.
that is a strange one though, Johnny Depp. Do you not think he's someone?
He's aging badly now.
I know.
He? Great, isn't it?
I feel bad for him. I
Do
think
ya?
he's going to end up killing himself.
Oh,
That's what I
that's-
fear. That's what I fear.
God, I hope not.
But
But he's a bit of a car crash, isn't he? He's a bit of a train wreck.
because he did amazing movies, like
he did, yeah.
Dead Man, one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies. You know, the black and white one.
Yeah.
What's Eating? Gilbert Grape, amazing movie. All these sort of obviously Edward Scissorhands,
Yeah.
and he was known for just doing these absolute powerful movies.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And then he just became a caricature of
Of
himself.
yeah. Well, I think Pirates of the Caribbean was kind of, that was it, wasn't it? He just became the character, and then that's him now. Until
Savvy.
he slowly morphed into...
Why he just drinks rum all day? Is that what you're saying?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Malibu.
Malibu and pineapple, please.
Savvy.
I think he's a bit of a wreck. I think, I think he's another guy who's like he's lived his best life.
Yeah.
And it's he should just retire and then try and relax. And
He's
enjoy
in a bit
things.
of a sort of weird grey area as well because his previous girlfriend accused him of some stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
A lot of people said it was bullshit. So even though people don't believe it, it's still a weird sort of
That's
area.
going to hang over you in one way or
Yeah.
another anyway, you know. But I think there was some video that I vaguely remember hearing the audio from, which sounded a bit off the wall. But then again, nobody knows, you know, unless you were there, what's going on or who's doing what. But yeah, either way, he's a bit of a wreck, I think, you know. So whether he did or didn't, his life is a bit out of control, you know.
Well, he's spending, was it 20 million on wine?
20 million. What kind of wine is he buying?
I know. Like, is he just
It's
buying a lot, or is he
Start-
just buying like 2 bottles of like?
Just got a couple of brew dogs. You know.
Yeah, if you can't take a
I
brew
had to walk
dog.
up a hill and down a hill.
I don't wanna know
It's
him.
like he's getting 20 million worth of wine. Yeah, I can imagine his rider to get here would be unbelievable.
Do you think that's something that's an easy transition for comedians to be actors?
I don't, and probably because I don't think I could learn the lines myself if I was trying to do it. I know I'm not. Some people are naturally gifted at the dramatic part of it, so it'll just come back then to people who can deliver well on stage and people who can perform to a level maybe that's better than the material might be. So,
Right.
so there might be a better performer than they are at writing, but it'll carry it through because they're really good at delivering and performing and playing a part. So I think actors coming to comedy as much as comedians come into acting, there's a massive learning curve there.
Yeah.
Completely different things, you know.
Is the timing different, or is it?
Well, I think if you're talking just comedy, I think you could act comedy. Comic timing is comic timing. If you have it, you have it. So I think you would intuitively have comic timing for stuff. But I don't think in terms of like understanding the nuances of acting and the nuances of character development and all that kind of stuff would be a massive learning curve, I think, coming from just straight from stand-up.
But they've always said that some of the best comedians have been some of the best dramatic actors, like Robin Williams. You know, he was really good in Good Will Hunting and some of the was it 1 Hour Photo? I didn't watch
that was
that
great
one.
actually. Yeah, it was really good.
It's supposed to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Same with I can't remember another example, but there are comedians that have sort of been good. Jim Carrey, I suppose. You know,
I think like if you're looking at so like if you were trying to go from stand-up directly to comedy acting. You'd understand the comic timing, but you might be more inclined to overham the acting. Even myself, I think it would probably be easier to act a dark, dramatic part because you're distancing yourself from yourself somewhat, and that's acting, isn't it? You know what I mean? So whereas if it's comedy, you're probably more inclined to try and be your funny self in a role. So I think that separation probably helps. And you know, comedians, they say, are like dark, depressed individuals. Anyway.
Brooding.
Yeah.
So
Look
you
at me, I have a 5 foot beard, for God's sake. It's not born out of happiness, is it?
What do you think is going on with Jim Carrey?
I don't know what's going on with Jim Carrey. I haven't even.
Did you see the documentary he released recently? Is the one about his life and how when he was filming the Man on the Moon.
Yeah. Was that the one? Yes, where
it's the recent one on Netflix.
Where he's essentially he was acting like the reincarnation of
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman. Yeah,
that was a strange one.
I watched
because
half of that.
His Andy Kaufman's parents actually came up to Jim while Jim was pretending to be Andy Kaufman and was hugging him and crying because they thought it was him. That was strange.
They need help, don't they? Because it's clearly Jim Carrey.
But does Jim need help? You know, because he's so.
Like, look, it's like when, and it's not exactly like it, but when Snoop Dogg went to Jamaica. Do you remember that?
When he became Snoop Lion,
right?
For a week.
My God, what a car crash of an idea! Like, and they literally happily filmed him, and literally I let him go around pretending he was a reincarnation of Bob Marley, or whoever he thought he was. I think Jim just got a little carried away.
Yeah.
It was uncanny how like him he was.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, of course.
Getting into
but that's why he was picked.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know.
But it was really weird. Even watching that was very unsettlingly strange, you know.
And a lot of people were applauding it, saying
Yeah.
it was an amazing documentary, but I found it so strange.
There was something very uncomfortable
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. I did watch. I literally watched half of it, and I don't know why I didn't finish it, because I finished nothing. That's why. Watched half it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I was also uneasy watching it, if you know what I mean. It was a strange one for me. I'm not sure, really. Yeah, he's like an odd fish, though, isn't he? He's an odd fish.
I don't know. It's hard to put sort of.
And he lost his girlfriend there a couple of years ago as well.
And a lot of people don't remember that he gave her like the pills, and you know, there's
his prescription or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he gave her syphilis or something before she died as well.
Not very pleasant.
No.
Well,
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, you could talk from experience or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've no idea. Thanks, sir. I do not have syphilis. Clarify
it's
that.
It's free, all of the Fringe Festival.
Yeah,
Syphilis free.
Just come to see Ladybeard. No syphilis. No, it's an odd one. I think he's a strange character.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very complex character, but you can tell anybody who's got that depth of ability in a craft, particularly like that, they're not going to be a straightforward person. You know,
there's a lot of tragedy towards us. How I feel about him is I feel like he's a tragic person.
Yeah.
And I feel like no one's recognizing the sort of path that he seems to be going down. You know, like acting quirky on these TV shows.
Are you going to say you think he's going to kill himself as well?
Probably. Him and Johnny Depp are going to start their own cult.
Quite a trend.
Not even a sexy cult, just a depressing cult. Where they
die. It's a death cult.
Death cult, yeah. Death
that's
cult.
The words you're looking for.
Death cult for QT.
Yeah. Very good.
That's going to be my next comedy
I
special.
Love it. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
I'll just talk about all the comedians that I think are going to kill themselves.
You'll pack it out. Yeah, no, look, it's there's a lot of darkness in the arts anyway, and it's a lot of I know it's an anecdote people throw around, such and such a person's depression because they're in such an art, or they're a high-low person, whatever. But I do think that any craft like that, there is a weight on people's shoulders of, number one, artistic expectation, number two, of monetary expectation, especially if you're under pressure to perform for big business and for film studios and stuff like that. So yes, that carries with it then the God complex of fame, and you throw all that into a mix of somebody maybe who hasn't had the best life or has an unstable personality, then you're bound to end up in the situation you're talking about.
Yeah.
Death cult.
Death cult for cutie. That he is a sort of strange one. I feel like people don't get the gravitas of what is going on in his mind, and I like you said, it was an awkward movie to watch. You know, there was scenes in it that I thought were a bit too much, and a lot of people were applauding him for what he did in it.
So when you say you think people don't get the complexity of what's going on in his mind, like, what do you see that you think other people don't see?
I think he's someone who's severely depressed.
Okay.
And I think he's on the edge, and I think he's trying to stay current, and he's trying to, you know, he was a massive actor back in the day. He was a comedian. I don't know how successful he was as a comedian. I think he was pretty big at that point. That's what gave him the sort of CV to become a great actor, comedic actor.
Oh, he's very physical. Yeah.
And I think he's trying to like grasp that limelight that he used to have, And I think he's trying to say that all the stuff that his back catalogue was because he was a method actor.
Okay.
Like he's trying to come off as a serious method actor now, as opposed to someone was a comic, character. And I think that's just to mask his own depression.
Well, maybe he was always the person he is now is the person he always was, but the acting he was doing then and the way he was living his life then was masking.
Yeah, that could be
what we
that.
see now.
Yeah,
So it could
totally.
Could be the other way around.
Yeah.
But the same point remains that he's out of control.
He seems like a social chameleon.
Yeah.
He's he'll change to whatever people think are sort of appropriate and sort of funny and disarming.
Go with the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
Bloody Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on any podcast going.
Well, we know that you're here.
Yeah.
You've been on a few though, haven't you? There was one in
Probably,
Ireland. There was a
yeah.
one I listened to that you were in Ireland, and I think it was them talking about how you were like the runner-up for Show Me the Funny.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
That was
the actual Show Me the Funny.
That was literally just a competition that's run in Ireland every year. I entered it with no expectation whatsoever beyond doing some material, getting a bit more stage time, seeing, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Got through my heat. I was very fortunate. Won my heat and then went into the semi-finals, and I won that. Excuse me, Brewdog, you're spoiling us.
Shame.
And with that, then I was kind of okay, that's it. That's amazing. I can now say, semi-finalist.
Yeah.
Show me the funny. Brilliant. No real expectation. Went to the final and came second.
Okay.
To Laura Byrne, actually, who's
Okay.
also on the Try Channel.
Right.
Laura won it. A very worthy winner, I might add. And I came second, and I was just over the moon. It was amazing. It was some audience participation vote and then judges vote. But in the final, it was predominantly judges vote.
And that
so
was
I very,
last
very
year?
happy. That was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. That is last year.
Last year.
So I was very, very fortunate. Gave me a nice boost. Got me a lot of better gigs and into better clubs and stuff like that. And I've just kept going from strength to strength from there. So very happy with it. Yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. It's good. I mean, there was a lot of good comics in the competition, so
Yeah.
I was happy. Yeah.
And did that, like you said, it boosted? Did it give you a little sort of platform to then say, I've done this, and then I can try and attract attention from the right people?
Yeah, it opens doors for you, So like, you might be knocking on the door of a bigger, more established club in the circuit, and you're waiting your turn basically to get in there, and then you go and you place second in a competition like that, and then when your name is out there from the competition, having come second, then that door is opened, and you're in. You're not like waiting on the end of the phone for your chance to get in. You're in, and then once you're in, then other clubs you're in, and then all of a sudden you're established in the circuit. If you're delivering, obviously, So that's essentially what happened.
And like you're very talented as a comedian, but do you think those things that come about are just like the right time and the place? Obviously, your actual comedy is winning it, but the actual getting into that sort of thing is like a sort of.
There's an element to look to anything in life. You know what I mean? I mean, you just have to be open and available to all opportunities as often as you can be, and be willing to put yourself out there and be willing to risk it. And then, like it said about that guy who's a really good writer, would second guess himself all the time about trying to no, maybe I won't. Whereas my opinion is just go for it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. Like, I mean, you still have to go through the processes of figuring out your material and figuring out rooms and getting better, but you might as well put yourself out there, and the more you do and the more opportunities you take, the faster you'll get where you want to go, So say yes to everything. It's my motto. Not everything.
Have you seen Yes Man? You know what happens to him.
No, not yes to everything, but generally just put yourself out there,
2 seconds. And we're back.
Never seen somebody do such a large line of cocaine in the middle of a podcast before. That was impressive.
But you must be feeling very happy with yourself.
Well, you know. You're a talented man.
So the Fringe.
Yeah.
How many times have you been, actually?
I was over last year.
Okay.
I was over before just watching. I was over last year. Did about maybe 2 weeks last year, just doing spots on compilation shows, Irish shows, that kind of stuff. Maybe doing 4 or 5 gigs a day for the 14 days, like 10-minute spots here and there and 15s, and that was good fun.
Yeah.
And this year back for the full run, obviously with the split show with Anna Clifford. So
yeah, it's the Lady Beard.
it is Lady Beard, yeah, like Lady Bird, not like the cross-dressing singer from Japan.
I
somewhere.
searched hashtag Lady Beard.
Yeah, I wish I'd
on
searched it.
Instagram. It's like a unicorn, but like a sort of a beard.
It's odd. It's a pigtailed white man who lives in Japan and dresses as a woman. I have no idea.
I know, with a beard, obviously.
Yeah, well, obviously we're trying to reclaim the word Lady Beard for ourselves.
How did you guys get paired up?
We know each other from the circuit in Dublin, from the comedy circuit. Anna and myself would have come up together, and she moved to London, and then we both put on a show together in Dublin in Whelan's, which is a big venue in Dublin. So we did a show there together, and we sold that out. So we were quite happy with that, and it was kind of a test pilot, really, more than anything else, to see how we would kind of work together, because we're quite different in terms of comedy, but we complement each other, you know, and we get on pretty well. So so that's how we came to be Lady Beard, for the Fringe, for the full run.
And what is the concept of Lady Beard?
The concept essentially is it's named after Lady Bird, right? The movie, and that's actually the picture from the movie.
All right, okay.
Anybody seen the movie? That's the picture. We recreated that. I wore a school uniform of a young girl.
How did you? You know, you're a tall guy. How did you get yourself into that?
If you actually had to cut most of the side of it, literally, it's barely hanging on. We were doing that photograph, and we walked past the pub in Dublin, to the place for that particular shot. The photographer wanted to get that shot there, and the nice houses in the background. And we're walking past like a real old man's pub. Yeah. And it was beautiful weather in Dublin at the time, so we changed in the back of my car, and we came around, and Anna just looked like a schoolgirl, and I looked like, I don't know what, and all these guys were drinking their pints outside and smoking cigarettes, and they were all like, chatter. And as we went past, they literally just went, and followed us with their eyes all the way to the end of the street without saying a word. So, yeah, I won't be wearing that again. But it was the concept of the show, essentially, it's a split show. So split shows, you're always trying to sell them based on like a hook. So the hook is simply the title and the picture and the image relating to the movie Lady Bird, and that's just a hook. But the theme, if you want to call it that, we're both separate comedians. We do a half an hour each. Okay. One of us will open, one of us will introduce the other, and one of us will close. And it's that simple, really. It's essentially 30-minute sets that we're doing. So, that's cool. Yeah, different styles. My stuff will be more... I guess my stuff will be themed around religion, irony, racism, that kind of stuff.
Which are all linked together.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. That's what I do. And Anna's stuff is probably more current and more about like more about emojis and stuff like she understands emojis, for example. But she's a very, very good comic and a very, very good joke writer. So her stuff is really good.
I've not seen any of her stuff.
Well, you're gonna have to come.
I just can't. Yeah, well, no, for sure. I'm gonna come see you guys.
You're gonna cross that hill.
When's your first night?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow, 6:15, Kilderkin, venue 227.
Yep.
It should be good. That rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Yeah. Not the Japanese guy in the dress.
You have to stroke your beard while you say it.
It's 6:15 to 7:15 for the full run, except the 16th. So it's a nice venue. It's down by the Parliament Building, just 5 minutes straight down off the Mile. Yeah. So it should be nice. Yeah, we're hopeful we'll get people in, and it's about 40-seater roughly. Right. Okay. So it should be nice. Yeah.
And so, what's your experience so far of the Fringe like? What it must be sort of amazing to come and be part of a group of select people to then perform.
Yeah, well, it's
at
like
a special festival, you know.
It's a mecca, isn't it?
It's
you
huge.
Know what I mean? Yeah, it's a real draw. It's a real draw for comics everywhere, all over the world. We're probably very, very lucky insofar as we just have to get like a Ryanair flight or a ferry or whatever here. But like people come from Australia, America, Canada, Europe. So we take it for granted that we can kind of get over here if we're allowed to perform here. Yeah. But it's very special. I think the Fringe is very, very special. I mean, it could make you, but equally it could just be a long run of hard work. And I think either way, if you do a full run and like it's just fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be a better comedian at the end of
Yeah.
it. You can't not be unless there's something wrong with you.
If you're going to do your craft every single
Yeah.
night for
Yeah.
a select number of nights, then you're
Yeah.
going to have to be better.
You're going to have to be better. And it's just your own show. I mean, we'll be doing other Best of Irish compilation
Yeah.
shows in different venues, and we'll be on the bill. I'm doing some panel show on Sunday
I
morning.
thought you were saying you were on the bill.
on the
TV
bill.
show.
Yeah, I was on the bill. I was criminal number 7. Yeah.
That's that guy with the beard.
Yeah, Jihadi Sean. They called me Jihadi Sean.
Sean.
Yeah, I was arrested and carried away.
Brianni Sean.
French and Irish in one. No, look, you can't but not get better. Do as much as you can do as many compilation shows, and try and enjoy the buzz. Try not to drink too much, because there's obviously a hazard of the Fringe is you're in a lot of bars, because all the venues are pubs. So that's
Your
bit of a
hours as
hazard.
well. You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
working like maybe an hour a day.
More,
Okay.
yeah. Like I have some shows that I'm going to be doing at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 2
Is that the
p.m.,
matinee?
3 p.m. That's it. Yeah, the cabaret matinee. Yeah. Ladyboys of Bangkok. I'm in that one.
Have you seen the poster for
I
that?
have seen the poster for that. Yeah, that's what I
Insane.
think I'd look like without a beard. Honestly, I was looking at that gun.
Maybe.
If I didn't have, I have pretty eyes.
That is what all people
Pretty
look
eyes.
without a beard, though.
Is it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a girl.
like a girl from Thailand.
Sorry, I'm saying this while I have my beard shaved. Usually I have a beard, so if
Sure,
you're
sure.
watching this,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Well,
Do you know what I do? I'm not someone who takes and looks after the beard. So
Right.
basically, I grow it to a certain length and then
Yeah.
shave it all off, and then
Okay.
just do the same.
Me, that was my plan too. I don't look after it either. It just grows straight down.
Right.
It's not my fault.
It's not your
You
fault.
know, you've got beard envy eyes. I can see it from here. You're like, look at that beard.
That's a proper jihadi beard, though.
Just take it easy, all right? It's just a beard. It's just a beard. No, it's look, Fringe is fun. You do a lot of hours. I would probably be gigging probably 2.5 hours a day
Right.
on average.
Okay.
And then running between venues, flyering your own shows, promoting your own shows.
Is that something that's up to you? You have to promote
Yeah,
your own show.
Got to promote your own show, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the hard part, I guess you'd say, getting people in. Like, you have a product that can deliver, but you have got to get them in to deliver it. So that's the hard part, especially with all the competition that's out there, A lot of
So
competition.
it's a huge hurdle to get people into your shows,
That's the hard part.
But I think, is it generally a sort of you have to get these people into your shows, or will people just stumble upon it because it's the Fringe?
You could get some, so it depends where your venue is. So we're
Yeah.
not smack center of where people are going to be just randomly milling about. But then again, benefit of that is where we are, people who are looking for something, there's nothing beside us. So we're going to get anybody who is looking in that area. But I think that would maybe only account for 4 or 5 people. The rest is literally you getting them in. So social media promotion, doing things like walking miles up hills to do podcasts.
Yeah, I know. Terrible. When they provide beer for you as well. It's like,
well, look, the beer's not going to get me back up the hill. That's all I know.
sorry.
So that kind of stuff. You got to plug it, got to promote it, got to do your social media, got to do your flyering, got to get your posters up in all the venues wherever you can. So try and stand out. Hence, like trying to come up with a catchy title and good photographs and that kind of thing.
When people come up with their title, it doesn't have to be in relation to their act. Is it just something that stands out?
Yeah, it can be. It depends. So if you're doing a one-man show, it's easier to make your title specifically about the theme of a show you're doing for 45 minutes or an hour. Because we're doing a split show, it's very hard to do that, especially when we're quite different. So it would be odd to try and name it as a halfway house. So you then try and do something that's kind of catchy or has a hook or has a link to something, to try and get a bit of attention. And then once you have the attention, you can explain to people, this is what the show is about, and you want to come along or whatever. So
I just assumed that she was the lady and you're the beard.
that is very surface way of looking at things. KP,
It's very Freudian.
you need to find the depth. With it,
But on the surface.
On the surface,
I
of
see
course,
what I see.
Yeah, lady,
Like
beard,
Popeye.
very straightforward. And then obviously it's in the same font as the movie Lady Bird, which you obviously haven't seen.
No, of course. Do you wear those outfits on stage?
No.
Okay.
Not this stage. No, we don't. We actually toyed with the idea of, and Anna's probably hearing this live as she travels to Edinburgh right now. She probably has packed that in her suitcase to wear while flying. I didn't bring it, Anna, if you're listening, because I've put on weight. I'm not proud to say it. And however badly I fit into that skirt beforehand, I definitely don't fit into it now. So no, is the long answer.
Yeah, but it seems like a sort of like a massive holiday camp for comedians, I guess. but there are actors as well. Do you find there's some snobbery that goes on?
Not really, to
No.
be honest. I mean, if anything, comedy is the highlight. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's the highlight, but it's the biggest thing, and it's the most prevalent thing that you see. And most people you meet are looking for comedy, or looking to go to comedy acts. You know, and then you might go to theatre, you might see a show, but unless you're like seriously involved in the acting world, I don't think you're going to go to 4 or 5 heavy plays a day. You might go and see 2 or 3 comedians in a day. You know, it's a different kind of thing. I don't notice any snobbery, to be honest, personally, and I haven't previously when I was here. So I think because comedy is kind of the main staple of the whole thing, that I think that's why there isn't that kind of.
Because I've got a guy coming on next week who is doing a one-man play.
Okay. Is it a comedic play at least?
No. It's something based on his uncle or his granddad during the world, one of the wars.
That'll be.
So it's him playing his granddad, I think. I'm not sure, you know.
That'll be dark.
But yeah, he's doing plays, and I want to assume that it's a very different beast in the Fringe world.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Like I've seen a few plays when I was here last year, and they're good. It's not my bag of tricks. Like I'm not an avid theatre goer, but I do enjoy when I see a good play. I can appreciate the writing that goes into it, the performance and everything else, and
a one act one is pretty.
I like that. Yeah, there was a great one actually, a great Irish one called but Tom Crean, the Irish Antarctic explorer.
Okay, no way.
Really good. Yeah, very very good.
Wow.
One man play, absolutely fascinating. Saw it in Cork in Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was 3 hours, like with intermission, one man, but brilliant, you know, because it was funny in places, but it was quite good.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a play.
Yeah, you're now.
I mean, probably.
You're gonna have to go see this guy's play now.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have to.
Granddad in World
If
War
he doesn't
something.
leave me tickets, then
I'll
be not satisfied.
I've got a little reserve seat for you down in Kilderkin.
I do have a girlfriend.
Did I mention
well.
Venue 227?
Hashtag Ladybeard.
2 seats, fine.
I brought you 4 beers. Well,
you
2
drank
beers.
2.
I
saw you coming in with 4, and I was like, nice one. This guy, he knows me. He gets me. He drinks 2. Jesus.
I drank wine before you came here as well.
Did you?
Yeah. My girlfriend works in a wine bar, so I get a lot of off wine. By the way, she works at not off wine, but like offshoots of wine that is left at the end of the night.
So you drink the dregs of wine bottles for fun. Okay, very good.
But there's she works at the Pit, which is like a food market with music and beer.
Where is that?
It used to be over by Pitt Street, but they have it at the Food and Flea, which is Market Street.
That's right up from where Kilderkin is.
Yeah.
Venue 227.
Well, you should come along, and then...
I was there today.
Really? I was working there as well, because I was delivering beer.
Because I was there before I went to Kilderkin, and then I came here.
Okay.
And it's literally just up from Kilderkin. It's on that down from the mile.
Yeah.
I had a burger there.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good spot.
I had a beer there.
Yeah. Well, I work part-time for Barney's Beer.
That's where I had a beer. If I'd known that, I would have dropped your name and been like, I'm not paying for this crap. I'm going to do a podcast.
Say that.
Why aren't we drinking
Can't
that beer?
drink this shit beer. I have to do.
Why aren't they sponsoring this podcast and not Brewdog?
It's in the works.
They had a lovely sour IPA. What's it called again?
Was it not the sherbet?
Yeah,
one.
that was really nice. Yeah,
it's great.
I had that.
It's beautiful.
Could have had more of that. To be honest. Yeah,
it's
nice.
good.
4.6%
I get
or something.
20% for friends.
Do you?
Yeah.
Nice one. Probably get 50, and you'll be like, oh, give me the money and I'll go up and get it.
10% for people I barely know. So
damn it.
I've got a racket going on. Add a pound and just skin it.
Yeah, skin it off the top. Yeah. That's what I do, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. That's exactly what I do. Brilliant. I'm going to get a discount in there then. Fantastic. Because we're going to be flyering that market.
Right.
Because it's pretty close to the venue, and I think there's nothing else down from it between there and us. There's nothing else. So if I flyer that,
the first point of contact with. It's great. It's always busy as well because people are up and down on the mile, and it just opened today. So there's some places that are not.
It's quite self-contained as well. Like it's got little food places, and it's little.
What did you get food wise?
I got a burger which had like blue cheese on it.
Blue cheese or go fuck your mother, as they say.
I would go with the blue cheese. That's an option. They didn't have that on the menu.
I can't say that to an Irishman because I know mothers are sacred in Ireland.
Well, we should all respect our mothers.
Treat your mother right.
Just because you don't respect your mother, I mean, don't lay this at my feet. You know what I mean? I'll take the blue cheese. It was nice, actually. It was a very nice burger. It was a bit, I'm not going to lie, right? It was a bit small. So I think they're going to...
There's a Peruvian one there as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Didn't know that one, yeah.
Brilliant. They do like cow's heart sometimes. It's
Right.
amazing. Some
Really?
tasty stuff.
in
there.
it like a in
Yeah.
like a brioche
Yeah.
bun.
Oh,
Cow's heart.
now you're
in
telling
a
me.
brioche
Tell
bun.
me.
Look at the hipster eyes like that.
There's craft beer.
Craft beer and Peruvian hearts. Jesus Christ.
Not cow hearts.
Yeah, you need your dad following you everywhere, just going, all right, pal, put it down.
I've got your curl.
Which one?
Get in the curl. You're sacked. Yeah. So how did you get started with the Try Channel?
The Try Channel. Well,
For people that don't know, you are on a YouTube series that is called the Try Channel.
yes.
And it's a bunch of Irish people tasting things
All of us are people.
or experiencing things that are not Irish, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a reaction channel. You know, it's nothing new. It's like a BuzzFeed-esque
Yeah.
type thing.
I
The
would
original
say
one-
Vice.
Vice, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, fair point.
I hate BuzzFeed.
Yeah, well, good. It's very. So it started out as Facts Channel, which was huge. Had like over 1 million subscribers. That ended about, maybe 6 months ago, maybe longer. That ended and ceased to exist for reasons that I don't know. It just ceased to exist.
Or going to
Yeah,
here.
it just ceased to exist. Senior producers from the Facts Channel set up the Try Channel, and some of us came over to the Try Channel. Going from strength to strength, surpassed 100,000 subscribers in a matter of
I
weeks.
think you had like 105k views on one of your videos.
Yeah. Some of them are really high. It's
great.
insane. Yeah. So it's going really, really well. The whole idea, like, I mean, I started off with Facts Channel. I think one of their producers approached me at a gig and gave me a card and said, "Hey, would you fancy coming in to try one out?" And I did, and then just went from there.
Did you know anyone that was doing the videos? Like,
No, I knew one or two from the comedy
Okay.
circuit. Yeah. So the breakdown is like maybe some of us are comedians, and then there's some actors, some singers, etc. So, but there's maybe 8 or 10 comedians, comics, most of whom are over here for the Fringe. We actually have a show, a Try Channel show. God, I won't remember this now.
No
that I'm on
way.
the podcast. Let me check it
do
out.
you have a Try Channel show?
Yeah, I'll check it out here.
Well, I
I'll
have
tell
to
you.
come along.
Oh, you have to come to that.
And to hashtag Ladybeard at this point.
Dun, dun, dun. Where is this? Hang on, I'll find it. I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't.
But it's a great channel. It's hilarious. I was watching it at like 1 o'clock in the morning last night just to like school up.
That's the best time to watch it. Where is it? Okay, yeah, it's on so it's called Irish People Try Edinburgh, I think, or Live in Edinburgh. I should know this. It's in the Voodoo Rooms, venue 68, Mondays at 10:10. That's the Voodoo Rooms.
Yes.
The French Quarter, venue 68.
Is there anything new that's been introduced? Is there anything new, sort of media-wise, that's been introduced to the Fringe over the last couple of years? Like, I think there's a few podcasts, and there's a few live podcast shows as well.
Yeah, you get that. I mean, I haven't been following that end of things, but I know that like in Dublin there's a podcast festival now, which is on
weird.
roughly the same time as the Fringe,
Okay.
which is hugely popular. Like they get people from Ireland. Actually, has one of the highest podcast listenerships in the world.
I get a lot
It's huge.
of Irish podcast listeners, yeah.
Like love podcasts for some reason.
So, and like strange places in America as well.
Yeah,
Just like Delaware or something.
Delaware.
There's more to Delaware than this.
There is. Is there?
You tell me.
It's huge listenerships from various podcasts. So they get like all these guys and podcasts in. They do live podcast shows, and to me it's a bizarre concept, but it seems to work.
Yeah.
And I imagine that for things like the Fringe and for other festivals, you would have podcasters and video bloggers and all sorts of things just decamping to the Fringe and then putting on their shows live from here. You know, so
I wonder if that'll
I
be.
haven't checked it out, but I imagine.
I wonder if that'll become an actual genre of the Fringe, like a podcast genre that people go to watch live.
God, I hope not.
I mean, the video things.
It's like I can understand that to a degree if you're really into your podcast listening, that it's like an insight into behind the scenes. Yeah. For an hour.
If there was an official Fringe one, I get that.
Yeah.
But if it was individuals, it means you have to be specifically into that person's
really,
podcast.
And I don't think you could sustain that over a run of
No.
10, 15 days. You know what I mean? It would just be. given all the competition.
Yeah.
But if it was like, yes, this is the podcast venue, and these guys are on every day doing podcasts,
And they're like leafleting their podcast. You know?
yeah. Come listen to me live.
This is I Shat and My Dog podcast number 12.
Hugely popular.
Well, supposedly in Ireland it's very popular.
Everything is popular in Ireland. Like, anything to drown out the silence of life.
One of my the only movies that I've seen apart from Angela's Ashes, and it was a movie to
I'm
do
from
with
Limerick. That's
Oh,
the
really?
same
No
city,
way.
Yeah, it doesn't rain as much as it does in Angela's Ashes.
Oh, I thought so. Well, it's grim. Scotland's grim as well.
Very grim.
There's not as many junkies in Edinburgh than there is in Trainspotting. So there you go.
Really? I would never have thought. Haven't descended that hill to the side of town you live in.
There's not as many Ewan McGregors in Edinburgh as there is in Trainspotting.
Your voice became decidedly Scottish there when you said
There's
Ewan
more
McGregor.
to Scotland than this.
Yeah. Go on, say Ewan McGregor again.
Ewan McGregor.
See that? Totally. Like 50% more Scottish when he says that name. Ewan McGregor. All right, pal.
I've got the high ground.
It's okay, you can go back to your hipster accent.
Yeah, so what was I talking about?
You know, being a hipster. Hating yourself.
Totally.
Celebrities killing themselves.
Hipster stuff. Johnny Depp's depressed. That is what all my podcasts are around.
Johnny Depp's depression. Episode 9.
Day 38. He's consumed 8 bottles of 2 million.
Whatever. Footnote, we're not actually mocking depression.
No, of course. I've done a few episodes on it.
On depression.
No, just being depressed.
Oh, but
No, I'm joking.
wow. See, this is the dangers of live podcasting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Imagine
especially when
this
you
in
have a
front of
drink.
an audience now of 400 people.
Well, if they had
pressure.
a podcast genre. But do you feel ever like pressurized when you do the Try Channel or like comedy or any other show? Do you feel like, do you still get like a nerves or whatever?
Oddly enough, in this kind of scenario, I'm not nervous at
Yeah.
all. I quite enjoy having chats to people. So unless the other person is completely lunatic,
Okay.
generally it's fine, right? I'm not nervous about podcasts or interviews and that kind of stuff. But or the Try Channel either, because there's no expectation there, because it's I can't plan anything.
No.
I haven't written it, so my heart and soul isn't in the next line that's going to come out. Whereas
Your ego is not in line.
yeah,
really.
yeah, not really on that. Now you'd be a bit annoyed if it went horrendously wrong.
Or they cut you out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never happened.
Is that a thing?
Don't hold a grudge. No, but you don't like you wouldn't be as nervous in things you necessarily don't have as much control over. Whereas when you're on stage doing stand up, it's entirely in your own gift what happens, because it's your material, it's your heart and soul that's been put into that.
Yeah.
And then it's whether the audience responds to it. So you'd be much more nervous in that scenario, because the minute you open your mouth, it's either going to work out or it's not.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come into a podcast and you're interviewing me and you didn't like the first thing I said, you're not just going to go, you're not going to fold your arms and sit back and go, well, this is crap.
We have to find a
How are we
common.
going to get through this hour?
We have to find a common ground or whatever.
Yeah. Which in your case was narcissism.
Totally. Oh, that movie that I was talking about, the one from Ireland, as not just Angela's Ashes.
Yeah.
It was at Jimmy's Barn.
Never heard of it.
Jimmy's Barn. I'll have to look it up.
Google it.
Actually,
it's probably more lies now.
it was an
the Inuits.
Inuit's Barn. Have you ever seen
Inuits Barn. I love that.
It's actually an igloo.
Yeah.
I think it was Jimmy's Barn, but it was an independent movie. Jimmy's Barn.
Wake and Ned. Have you ever seen Wake and Ned? Look that one up. You'd enjoy that.
I do like Jimmy's Hall.
Jimmy's Hall.
It's about so it's directed by Ken Loach.
Oh, Ken Loach, yeah.
And it's about
Didn't he direct To Win the Shakespeare Barley?
Yeah,
great movie.
and it tells the story of deportation and to the United States from Ireland in 1933.
Okay.
So it's a guy that was like sort of a bad guy in his local village, and they send him off to America because he's causing too much hassle, and then he comes back and starts his own takes the local hall that they have there in the village and turns it into like a youth center.
And then he runs into trouble with the church, doesn't he?
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, that's the only way.
Well, yeah.
And the police as well. Bloody Jimmy's Hall.
Unbelievable.
But it shows that.
I need to watch that. I haven't seen it.
It's good. That's the old
I think I recognise the picture.
Because
who is that? Who's in that leading? Who's acting in it?
Ken Loach, starring Barry Ward.
No.
Simone Kirby.
No.
Jim Norton. Can't be the Jim
Can't
Norton.
be the Jim Norton, surely.
Let me see.
Let's find out, is it?
But that is an Irish name, is it not?
Most names are Irish names.
Oh no, it's not that Jim Norton.
No, not when you've got Jim Norton brackets Irish actor.
Not that.
That's
It should be in brackets, not that.
Not the Jim Norton. Yeah. No, it's
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I need to check it out. Yeah.
I strangely watched it when I was in Portugal for some reason. Went to the cinema at Christmas. It was a tradition as part of my ex's family who stay in Portugal.
Okay.
And they would go to the cinema on
At Christmas.
Christmas, and it was Jimmy's Hall that was on.
And they went to see it. Was it
It
in
was good.
Portuguese though, or was it English?
It was in English.
Okay.
It was in Irish, actually. There's more to Jimmy than
Jimmy's
than
holla.
this.
That's the,
Jimmy's Holla.
Yeah, that's literally the Irish.
That's the ghetto version. Jimmy's Holla.
Jimmy's holla. Yeah, Irish movies are interesting. They're like that. Ken Loach though he's quite a left wing director.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I believe I read an interview with him one time, and he's quite a left wing socialist type guy.
Do you think there is a division with that sort of stuff in Ireland?
Not really.
Okay.
No, not to the same. A lot of wine you had. Not to the same extent that you would have in the United States or in even the UK.
I think the UK is more prevalent.
I think it's because you're coming out of a two-party political system.
Yeah.
So it's immediately polarized between conservative and not as conservative, right? If you know what I mean. Whereas we have a proportional representation electoral system, which means that you can get a wide breadth and depth of small parties and independents. And yes, we have our big parties, but then because that was always the system, you end up having a much more centrist situation. So
which encompasses everything.
Really, you just end up with what you really end up with in terms of governments is very slightly centre right, or very slightly centre left.
Okay.
You don't really end up with like massive swings in either direction. So make of that what you will. That could be a great thing depending what side of the fence you sit on, or it could be a terrible thing again depending what side of the fence you sit on. Yeah, I like that it's quite centrist, even though it doesn't necessarily solve everybody's problems, but it means you don't have massive reactionary events like Trump or like Theresa May or David Cameron deciding to take everybody out of Europe because he'll win it, and that'll shut those guys up.
Supposedly that's why he left, because he didn't want to leave the EU.
Well, he never did. It was a stupid plan. He just decided he had all these like dissenters in the Tory backbenches, which have been there for decades. Yeah. And anti-Europe, and he was going, okay, I'll shut them up because they're getting a bit stronger. Yeah. I'll shut these guys. I know what we'll do. We'll go to the people. That'll show them, and that just backfired horribly, and here we are. One
of the best quotes I've ever heard is, "A vote in public gets what it deserves."
Well, there you go.
It's a great quote.
I like that. It's almost fascist. You're a fascist hipster.
A great comrade gets what it deserves, or they deserve, should I say? They?
Why give them anything? Just,
what we do?
Strip them of their
just
titles.
Milk.
Take their land. Anyway, we've gone too far.
Yeah, it definitely is a sort of a weird point in British politics just now, and I feel like there's people sort of waiting to see what happens next to sort of decide what they're going to do with the rest of their life.
Well, where does Scotland sit in all this? I mean, you know, the last referendum you guys had, and then this comes down the track afterwards, like, oh, we're going to leave the United Kingdom. No, we'll stay. No, they're leaving. I mean, it's a bit.
I mean, almost unanimously, we voted not to leave the EU. As
same
Scotland.
As Northern Ireland. Same as Northern Ireland. Yeah.
And how can a government centralised in England make decisions for a country that doesn't want to be part of something that they're wanting to promote?
Yeah, but you had your chance to get out, didn't you?
It feels like we're saying stuff that would be dissected in the future, and it would be like, well, this is where it all started. You know, like it's leading towards something. Yeah, and they're going to be talking about it maybe in 10 years' time, and it'll be like, this is the warning signs or whatnot.
Well, I think a lot of opportunity has been taken away from a generation who are being, I guess, voted against by a generation that have nothing to lose. Yeah. Which is very sad, really, you know. And I think the same thing happened probably in the Scottish referendum as well. It was more of the swing was in the older generation. Yeah. Worrying about pensions and worrying about stability and farmers.
Farmers is the big
Let's
one.
keep things the way it is. Yeah. Let's keep things the way it is. And that just, again, screwed the young vote. And again, in the broader context of the whole thing leaving Europe, again, screwed the young vote again, you know. So it's tough, isn't it?
Is there any sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Spanish.
Yeah, Spain. Spanglish. Do you think there's any rumblings in Ireland to
No.
sort of maybe come together?
No.
Have a referendum of some sort
To what? To leave?
for Northern Ireland to become part
Oh,
of?
yeah, like the border poll.
Yeah.
That is, I think it will be insane for that to happen now. I think that is an inevitability that it will eventually happen.
Okay.
By weighting of population growth, it will happen eventually. I think to call for it now will be detrimental to the foundation of the peace process. It would put communities who don't want a united Ireland and want to stay as part of the United Kingdom under massive pressure and could essentially destabilize a lot of the peace process if there was a massive push for it against the will of a large proportion of the population. I think it's something that can only come about by consensus, really. You know, that if you have, I would say you'd nearly need 70% of people in Northern Ireland wanting to have
For that to go through.
for it to be fair.
Right, okay.
You know, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to see 52% going, we're going back, and 48 going, no. I mean, that's not going to end well. And it couldn't, you know.
I mean, it might spark civil war again, you know.
Well, it'll spark, you know, definitely, it would embolden dissidents on both sides of the situation in Northern Ireland to come out and start causing trouble again on behalf of certain communities and on both sides, and it would be it'd just be a bit messy. I don't think you'd see anything get back to the heights that were there back in what they call the Troubles, but I think it would definitely destabilize the situation and make it. It would push back Northern Ireland. It's come on. Have you been there?
No.
Belfast is a great city. People are very
my
nice.
girlfriend, she went to university in Dublin, so she lived there for 5 years. So she was always saying we should go over and sort of travel across down to the south as well. So.
Yeah, Belfast is nice. I mean, there's other parts of Northern Ireland, obviously. Nice. Derry is nice. You can go over into Donegal. There's no border now, so you cross without even knowing. Yeah. You don't know which side you're on anymore. And that's fantastic. But of course, Brexit could change all that now. We don't know what's going to happen.
I saw an amazing documentary on people trying to catch massive waves, and one of the places that's unknown to the surfing world is South Ireland. On the sort of west coast,
Sligo.
Yeah, I think it's like way down there, and it's some of the perfect waves that these guys are catching.
Way out, and off the coast of County Clare. Yeah, there's documentaries of guys going out on like jet skis, being towed out, and then they go out and they catch the waves and come in like 40, 50 foot.
But
waves.
they're like perfect sort of huge waves.
Huge waves, yeah. A lot of guys come from the States to do it. There's some surf schools down along the coast as well.
Really?
All the west coast of Ireland. Yeah, it's mad.
That's
freeze
crazy.
Well,
they're all wearing like
sort of full on wetsuits. Yeah. But no, it's huge, like hugely popular. Yeah, on the west coast. Yeah. Would you believe I tried to do a surfing lesson, right? And I got down there, 3-hour drive from Dublin for a weekend. Going to do this surfing lesson. I can do this, right? Got there, got all set up, woke up that morning, had a shower, and literally whatever I did, I managed to give myself this really strange crick in my neck, and I couldn't move my head. I swear this is
that old chestnut as well.
I wish it wasn't true. So everybody else was going surfing. I was like to the surf instructor guy. He's like, and there's one more. And he's like, are you? I was like, and he literally did what you did. Oh yeah. I was like, no, I do want to do it.
Here's this comedian.
This guy with a broken neck. So I had to watch him surfing, but I didn't. Maybe a year later, I did try it out.
Right.
Up in Mayo, a place called Achill Island. Beautiful place.
There's some places just off the coast of Edinburgh as well that's good to do it.
Really,
there's a lot of people that go down. And Berwick, I think they go down to North Berwick.
Yeah, I tried it out a couple of times. It was grand. I don't have the patience to spend years learning to be a good surfer.
I tried stand-up paddling. You know,
you need strong core muscles for that. But you're into MMA and all that crap. So.
MDMA
as well. Yeah, why not? Yeah,
that makes you think you have strong core muscles.
I'm so happy.
You love your paddle.
Yeah. Hugging it as you float out to sea. Yeah. No, it's a tough thing to be good at. I think.
No, there's a lot of balance and core strength required.
Yeah, and I have neither.
So what do you do apart from stand up? Like, what's your hobbies out with that sort of circuit?
Hobbies.
Or is it all encompassing?
Oh, it's life is comedy.
Comedy is life.
Oh, I write random things, different things, aside from comedy, but just like poems, stories, kind of random stuff. That's just more for fun. They're not like anywhere near quality stuff that you'd be publishing or using for it like that. I work as well in social media. I do social media management as well for companies and stuff like that. So that's paying some bills as well as the comedy, and that you don't have time for hobbies when you're doing comedy.
Does that translate into your sort of comedy career, the social media managing, or is it you just can't be bothered with it when you because you do it all day?
Yeah, I could probably put a lot more effort into it, and I probably should for myself. But definitely knowing what to do and when to do it helps. Like I'll have some ads going out on social media for the show and things like that, because like flyering is very competitive, but I can guarantee you most comics don't have social media ads running. So like if I'm targeting people who are traveling from abroad to Edinburgh for the 3 weeks of the Fringe, and they're on their phone in a coffee shop, chances are I'm probably the only ad they're going to, well, not the only one, but I'll be one of very few that they'll see. So, and then if I happen to flyer them as well, that makes a secondary connection, and maybe I can have a chat and get them in. So definitely all that kind of stuff helps, you know, so, but having the time to do it is the
same
thing,
with sort of podcast connections.
Hey,
so
you know, I mean, I'm here, I'm here because I like you, KP. I'm not here because Ladybeard is on in Kilderkin, venue 227. That's not why I'm here.
No,
I'm
or
here.
you didn't search hashtag Edinburgh Fringe and then looked up what
No,
was ever
absolutely not.
posting.
What do you take me for? Some sort of like, you know.
But it's all cool, like it all.
You know, I'm not a vampire, KP.
You're a succubus.
I'm
you know.
here for the beer, not the exposure.
Calm down, dude. Here for the beer. But obviously it's good to have those skills.
Of course it helps.
Because it's weird that there's nobody utilising that as much. In the Fringe, you think that would be a massive thing that people would use. It's a huge tool.
It is, but you get a lot of, not a lot of, but you have different sections of the comedy world. So you have people who are really purist and believe that, and rightly or wrongly believe that the comedy should stand on its own 2 feet and speak for itself, and that's fine. But when you're in a very competitive environment, you need to kind of try and make yourself stand out. And if you can't get people in to show them that the comedy stands on its own 2 feet in the first place,
you're fucked.
You're literally standing on your own 2 feet, and that's of no benefit to anybody. So there's that element of it, and then there's just people not knowing their way around social media. And comedians generally wouldn't be, like, unless you're huge, wouldn't be flush with cash. Yeah. So they wouldn't have money to pay people to do it for them. So I'm uniquely lucky that I do that for a living as well, so I can then apply those skills to the comedy, or to help promote the comedy when I'm doing it. Now, I'm not doing this all the time when I'm back at home. I'm just primarily gigging. Yeah. But for something like the Fringe, I put a bit of effort into it, you know. Yeah, of course. You have to. Yeah. I mean, it's too competitive. You're definitely standing out from what I've seen, you know, from the posts you've made. Yeah. I don't see any other sort of comedians doing that as of yet. They better not start now after hearing this. They hear this podcast and it becomes flooded, KP. Well, the title of this episode is going to be "How to Make It in the Fringe" by Brian Gallagher. By washed-up comedian, alcoholic Brian Gallagher. Thanks. The guy who shoves American spicy things up his nose on the Try Channel. Somebody has to. So what's the plan? Like, what's your long-term goal? God, that's a difficult question. Like I said, take every opportunity that comes its way. I obviously would love to be performing at bigger venues and doing more comedy, branching out more into podcasting, radio, writing, television. Like, I don't hold. Nothing to me is like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I'll do literally anything within reason if it furthers the comedic goal. You know what I mean? I think in this day and age, you can't just be a stand-up comedian and do that and hope that is going to get you from A to B. I think you have to have more facets to your game, and you have to be able and willing to do more in order to if ultimately stand-up is where you want to be bigger, then you have to be willing to do other things to help you get to that point. Yeah, because you need to get. It's multifaceted. Yeah, exactly. It's not just about your comedy. No, your personality. It's you have to be able to meet people and chat to people and get on with people. I mean, for me, I think that's the hardest thing. Is not for me, but in general for people, is just meeting people and chatting to them and you know, taking people at face value. I think a lot of the time people can be very much like, oh, I don't know that guy, I won't talk to him because I'm busy or whatever. Well, you know nothing about that guy. Yeah. Maybe he's a really nice guy. Maybe, like, for example, podcast. Maybe we can have a podcast, have a chat, have a beer, you know, and it's fun and everybody wins. You know, what's wrong with that? No. So some people are like, no, I won't do that because I'm doing I'm drinking a pint in a pub, scribbling in my notebook. Well, maybe you should go have a chat.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you though?
Is there any up and comers that you're sort of into?
Ooh.
Is there anyone you want to go see at the Fringe as
Oh,
well?
at the Fringe, I wouldn't call them up and comers, but people I would definitely recommendations of what I would definitely go and see. John Luke Roberts,
Okay.
amazing. Saw him last year, probably one of the best shows I saw. Paul Curry, Irish comedian, brilliant.
Okay.
Danny O'Brien,
Yeah.
runs a club in Dublin. Really, really good. Lock In is his new show. Who else is really, really good?
I'm suspecting there's a theme to your people.
No,
It's just Irish folks that you want on your
no.
want
hang
people
on.
to go see.
John Luke Roberts is actually English, so
I think everyone is Irish in your voice.
yeah. Oh, sorry, John Luke Roberts.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I know him. Yeah, he's my uncle.
He sells my dad a car all the time.
Sells. Still looking for your dad. Like that's my car. Yeah. All right, pal. Gone.
He's running a very lucrative drug running business. That's why he buys a lot of cars.
Don't doubt it for a second. To be honest. No, there's lots and lots and lots of good Irish comics over here. Lots of good compilation shows. Lots of good comics in general. But I think there are three off the top of my head because I wasn't planning on plugging people.
Yeah.
But there are three off the top of my head. There's so many though. A lot of Try Channel people are over here as well.
Really?
Like, Laura Byrne, Davy Riley, Ryan Cullen. There's like so
Anna.
many. Anna's not Try Channel, but she is here. She's doing my show, obviously. Our show.
Yes.
Sorry, Anna. Our show, Lady Beard. So definitely come see that.
Yeah.
Lady Beard, venue 227, Killergan. Near a market where you sell beer. So
Yes, of
you
course.
can, if you're a fan, you can win.
If you're thirsty after you see a great comedy show,
yeah.
then go to the Food and Flea after the hashtag Ladybeard.
Yeah, where we'll have a pint together.
Yes, and laugh
And commune
Because
over
we-
tiny burgers.
over some Peruvian hearts. Of
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, no, look, the Fringe is full. I would check out definitely the PBH, the Wee Blue book.
Yeah.
Is a great guide to stuff that's going on. Aside from the big Fringe book, which is a lot of the paid stuff. So if you want to get bang for your buck, check out the PBH Wee Blue book because it's got a list of free to see shows. So it's pay what you want basically, and that's the model.
I've been so impressed with the sort of different angles people are coming at the Fringe with now. There's a whole book on just Canadian artists that
Really,
are
yeah?
in the Fringe. So it's just a list of Canadian comedians, you know.
Right, for people
So
who can't sleep at night, maybe.
Well,
You know.
exactly. So they're doing creative things to bring in those
Well, you
punters.
you have to. Yeah, you have to because like I said, it's thousands of shows, so you need to stand out and you need to kind of look at it. Like for years, we've been using the shtick of Irish comedy, best of Irish comedy. Come see up and coming Irish comedy because Ireland is has got a name for good comedy and good comedians. So, but I think they're at a certain tipping point where that becomes everybody's using the same shtick, so it kind of devalues slightly. But certainly coming up with a hook for your grouping or a crowd or whatever, you do what you have to do to get people in. Once you get them in, it's up to you. Then
I was thinking about do you know Ari Shafir?
The name I do.
He's like an American comedian who's Jewish.
Okay.
And he's not Jewish anymore. He denounced it.
Okay.
And is atheist now. But when you're born a Jew, you're always a Jew.
Yeah.
So he calls himself like the amazing something. I'll have to look it up.
Here we go again. Google back in action.
But he's hilarious.
And he's here, is he?
But he's one of the very few sort of American comedians that come over and sort of take part in the actual thematics of the Fringe. It's not just I'll do it and I'll leave.
Yeah, he's involved. He's invested.
Let's see, Irish Fear.
Okay.
But he has a podcast. Everyone has a even like someone's grand probably has a podcast.
My nan, she's dead, and she has a podcast.
Was it Beyond the Grave?
No.
So he has Irish Fear's renamed storyteller show.
Give me a look.
He has two shows, and
I do know him. Yeah.
That's Joe Rogan. But
Yeah,
that's the guy there. That's the Irish Fear.
I know him. Yeah, I've seen him.
That's probably he's eating bacon in that one because he's Jewish.
Pork. I had some of that pork in it. What's that place called? Oink.
Oh yeah, amazing. Is it good? I've not been there yet.
Unbelievable.
Is it Oink in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile?
There's one down opposite Killercan, Finney 227.
Yeah.
And there's also one in opposite Finnegan's pub, Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
I was in that one, and
it's good.
God, And you've got that Fentiman's lemonade. You know Fentiman's lemonade?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Man, you're talking my language now.
Unbelievable.
There's something about pulled pork. I don't like pork, a lot of pork.
Yeah.
But pulled pork.
But a mountain of pulled pork.
And cheese.
And a fancy fermented lemonade.
Oh.
You know what I mean? The hipster dream right there.
The one where you have to peel like the lid off as well. What is it?
Like,
And the one with the cap as well. That's like,
look.
amazing. It's good stuff.
It's great, yeah.
So is that why? What's your sort of diet like when you're here?
It's terrible. How could you tell? Like I literally had a burger in that place you work, okay, covered in blue cheese.
Yeah.
And yesterday I had that giant 500 grams of pulled pork with a lemonade. So generally the theme will be fast and high calorie. And bad for you in general would be what I'll be in.
Seems like there's a gap in the market for providing artists with good quality food, or would they want it? Do you think?
That's the thing, you know. Do you want? There's a few, like I know there's a couple of comedians here, who are like making their own salads in the morning and all this kind of stuff, and they're approaching Fringe like it's some sort of yogic retreat.
God.
I know.
They're doing their Kegel exercises in the morning as well.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Just do comedy, eat crap food, have a couple of beers. That's what it's all about. It's part and parcel. Get you'll get through it. But yeah, for me, it's gonna be fast food all the way. I think. Yeah. Not like McDonald's fast food. You know. Like,
Do you feel like you want to pave your way here in the UK, or do you think you want to go and make your dream in America or wherever?
I again would never say no to anything. I have had,
because LA is the spot, isn't it? Is LA? Is that it?
Isn't it? I mean, you know, like so
out with the Fringe.
For Irish comedians, generally the route is generally London. If you get to a certain level in Ireland where you feel it's a good point to jump off, people move to London. Anna's based in London. She's doing a lot of gigs there, a lot of work there, and doing really, really well. So it is a jumping off point where people tend to go to London. And then you do the Fringes in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, the Fringe.
Oh, they have one in Australia?
Loads of Fringes.
What?
Yeah.
Where else are these Fringes?
Perth, Adelaide, just Fringe.
They're not on the Fringe anymore, are they?
Fringes everywhere.
Fringes of the world.
Fringes of the world, you say. And cover your eyes.
Inuit Fringe, maybe?
Possibly
Call
in
back.
Reykjavik, the Reykjavik Fringe. No, there's loads of them, like, you know, but there's like different routes. You can end up on the Fringe circuit as such if you're at that level, and it's you can afford to do it, and take the risk, I suppose. And then there's the American route, and there's like the London route. So for me, I think if I was to make a jump, it would probably logically for me probably be London.
Right.
But I have.
Is it in the back of your mind?
It's there as a longer term option.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we'll see what happens. But ultimately, you can only go so far in Ireland. And you need to start looking at where you want to go next or where you want to gig next. So for me to gig more and to dip my toe would probably be London. Right. And see what happens. Some guys, Germany has some good English comedy clubs as well. And yeah. And Spain. So a lot of guys in Ireland pop over and back to Germany and Spain and do gigs just to get themselves out there a little bit, you know. Even Asia, there's clubs in Asia that you can do.
I've heard of some comedians going to Asia, but it must be a strange market. I mean, there's a lot
it's expat comedy. Right, okay, yeah, it's definitely that.
I mean immigrants?
Yeah, whichever word you want to use. Yeah. Yes, immigrants from here as opposed to expats. That's always a funny one. That one actually. Yeah.
They're expats if they're white.
Yeah, basically, and predominantly British or American. Yeah, or Irish immigrants or tourists.
Yeah, Irish are known as, well, you guys were known to be less than sort of black people in America when you guys were like,
and in England.
Yeah. So you were less than
no
slaves.
No dogs, no blacks, no Irish. Yeah,
crazy.
Not that long ago.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hold it against you. It's alright.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Well, we had a huge slave trade in Scotland, in Glasgow.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, that was like the first port of call for a bunch of slave traders before they sort of shipped off to America.
It's amazing. I did not know that.
Yep, Scotland was totally part of it.
Wow.
Assholes.
That's your cross.
I hate my ancestors. All that wealth.
Oh yeah. Damn you in my fine house.
You guys didn't hand it down to me, you assholes.
You blew it all in rum.
I don't have any slaves, don't have any whiskey. I don't have any cotton.
But look, you have the dregs of many bottles of wine. You know, you have your own podcast.
Yes, that is true.
You have a strange inability to keep your earphones in your ears.
Yeah.
You know,
that's it.
Life is good. Life is good.
I like how you said I have a strange inability. This is just happening to me at this moment in time.
Yeah. You should put them through the little holes in your ears. Like I see people doing that when they walk down the streets.
Do you know what it is? It's because I have weird ear holes. So I can't find ear plugs that fit my ears.
Why do
They
you wear, like,
constantly come up. Well,
over-
yeah. Well, you stole them. So
I
yeah,
stole them.
yeah. You came in here and you're like, I demand to use.
I was
those.
like, "Where's the beer? I need your bathroom. It's very humid. What
Like-
time does this podcast start?"
He had a nap for 20 minutes in my bed, and I was like,
well, you know,
"There's my shirt in there if you want as well."
look, it's whatever. It's fine, yeah. I sweat all over your bed.
So I usually ask guests that it's their first time on the show some questions at the end
Okay,
because we're getting towards the end.
I'm so excited.
Just what one of your favorite movies that you'd seen recently or all time?
God, recently or all time. Favorite movie? A movie that always sticks in my head is Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
Right. Okay.
Right, and I don't remember much about it apart from the fact that Andy Garcia was in it.
Oh, right.
And there was a really eclectic cast. It was like one of those movies where it was like 7 bad guys
Yeah.
go to do something, and one of them is not as bad as the other bad guys. And there was like a fallout and calamity. But it always stuck in my head as a really, really good movie.
Right.
As I haven't rewatched it. I keep meaning to rewatch it. Reservoir Dogs obviously would be a real favorite
Classic.
of mine. Yeah.
Do you know that's a Disney movie now?
What?
Because the company Miramax bought over. No,
That's
it was bought over by Disney.
by default. It's a Disney movie then. I thought you were like they're remaking it as a Disney movie.
Oh
you know?
boy!
Yeah, Reservoir Bunnies or something ridiculous. Yeah. That's good. So what's the other one? That one, the Western with the kid, the girl, and the guy.
The old one or the a new
No,
one?
recent one. More recent. What's it called?
Slow West.
No.
Have you seen Slow West?
No, it's
Great
good.
one.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
have you seen The Road? With
Yes.
the,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know the little boy from that? He's
Mhm.
like a sort of teenager in this one. It's set in the Wild West, and Dave Fassbender
Okay.
is a cowboy that bumps into this Scottish kid who's trying to look for his love that moves over to
Okay.
America, and he's reluctantly trying to take him to find her, and he's trying to get this kid not killed.
Okay.
It's shot in New Zealand, which
Nice. Always good.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing scenery. You could only do it in New Zealand. At
I love
this
the
point.
Coen brothers as well.
Yeah,
Anything by the Coen brothers.
it's great. Slow
Yeah.
West. It's an amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fassbender's a brilliant actor.
Yeah. Irish.
Yep,
Irish,
obviously.
German Irish.
German accent. Yeah.
What?
Germ-
Pugs.
He tries to extinguish his own inferior genes. so-
Pugs on tour. Can't breathe. That's why I'm raising my paw. Somebody help me breathe. And look what happened
yeah.
next.
So,
Yeah.
on to the next question.
Yes, this is exciting because I'm totally unprepared.
Favorite book or of all time or one recently,
Oh, favorite book about Kitchen Confidential.
apart from the Bible, of course.
What, the Quran and the Torah and the Bhagavad Gita. Read them all.
Ah,
Huge fan of the religious
and
books.
Hungry Caterpillar.
Oh yeah, no, the spaghetti monster, the Gruffalo. Favorite book there was
Is that Kitchen Confidential? Was that
Kitchen
Anthony
Confidential.
Bourdain?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
great
That's
book.
really, really good. George Orwell's book about working in kitchens as well, something in Paris. I'm really bad at remembering things, which is why you
he
hate
did a book as well.
He did a book about Paris. I can't remember the name of it. You know,
George Orwell.
Pretty sure, yeah. Here we go, Google.
That's probably going to tell me.
Don't make me wrong.
And I'll just write Paris. Down and Out in
Mhm.
Paris.
And London. Is that the name?
And London,
Yeah,
yeah.
Down Out in Paris, London. Terrible memory, but great, but great taste.
Yeah.
Really good book.
Good.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
And I've never heard that he
There you
wrote
go.
another book
See?
apart from 1984.
That's why he wrote that in 1983.
That was the year before. It was the one that didn't take off as well.
Yeah. Ruined by its own success. The previous one. No, it's very, very good. Yeah, I'd highly recommend that if you want to read something interesting.
Cool. Favorite piece of music?
Favorite piece of music?
Album or
I'm a huge Bob Marley fan.
Really?
Small Axe, Mellow Mood,
Can I ask a question?
Natural Mystic.
Can you not be a stoner and like
Yeah, you can.
Bob Marley?
You can.
Okay.
You can. I got into Bob Marley when I was in secondary school.
Okay.
And there was a kid who was maybe a year older than me. Who was a really cool kid, you know. And I didn't have a musical identity at the time.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
At the time, everybody my age had a musical identity, and I didn't because my brothers are much older than me, so I
Right.
didn't really have their stuff was too old.
Right.
And then I didn't really have a peer group when I was young of people
Yeah.
who listen to music. So when I was in school, I was trying to find my feet where people had already identified with their more closer related siblings or whatever. So for me, I was looking for something. I was listening to bits and pieces, and as a result, I now have quite a broad taste in music. I listen to anything, but this guy was really into Bob Marley. He kept giving me like Bob Marley stuff to listen to, and ever since I've been a big fan.
That's so strange
Yeah.
that something that you listened to at an early age stuck with you for so long.
Yeah, no, I'm huge fan. Yeah.
What would you say is seminal pieces?
You can't pin it down, but I like. There's so many good songs. Like if I was looking for songs off the top of my head, I go Kaya, Natural Mystic is really good. Mellow Mood. What else? Nothing that's on the Legend album because it's just been played to death.
He definitely has an iconic sound.
Oh yeah, it's
regardless of how people think about him.
Yeah.
He definitely, that sound is just gonna
and
live
I
on.
don't think anybody ever recreated the volume or quality of work in the reggae genre that he produced. Was just,
and that sort of
everything
weird,
else is just an echo of Bob Marley.
Yeah. And he sort of encapsulated a sort of version of love in songs as well, you know, like a communal love, as opposed to just talking about, you know, his wife or whatever.
Well, it was born out of like socioeconomic upheaval and poverty and obviously racism, and then like the love was the overarching theme, and then Rastafarian religious beliefs layered on top of that, and then the Jamaican political system at the time where there was people getting shot in the streets for being
and he was
voted for one party or the other.
Was he half white?
I think he was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so there's that sort of weird sort of dichotomy in your own genes.
And a notorious womanizer as well.
Yeah.
Like notorious, you know, like people getting women off the tour bus and out of the house before Rita came back. She was in the band. Like, you know, it's just insane, insane.
But, you know, you give a man a...
Not just one love.
Of course. One love to individual...
Yeah,
respect of...
He sang that song so many times.
The other lyrics was respect of one love. So individually, he was one love.
He was the one love of many people. Yeah.
Collective. Favorite quote of all time?
Favorite quote of all time? Oh, God, that's difficult. There's a Bill Hicks one that I used to quote that I can't remember now because of bad memory. But you know the Bill Hicks line where he talks about acid and here's Tom with the weather. That one? We're all one consciousness, experiencing life together. Blah 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 blah. I just actually Google that, will you? The Bill Hicks quote, because I can't remember.
I think that's perfect because it kind of ties into what you were talking about earlier on, where you have this sort of rant and a sort of beautiful statement tied in with the sort of the turn on.
Yeah. I just can't remember it off the top of my head.
Was it Bill Hicks acid?
Yeah, Bill Hicks acid quote. I used to have that written somewhere actually, but because it was so good.
On your wall as a young lad. He says, today a young man on acid realised that all matter is merely energy condensed to slow a vibration, that we are all one consciousness, experience itself subjectively, there is no such thing as death, life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. That's brilliant.
And then he goes, and here's Tom with the weather. It's just not on that bit, but that was in the original set, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Is that your quote?
That's my quote, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, delivered by you, having researched it because I couldn't remember.
How would you relate that?
I just like the concept of it. I like the idea that, yes, because I do tend to believe, like I mentioned earlier in the show, I don't believe in, like I don't understand monarchy as a concept. I don't understand one person being better than another person.
The chimp concept.
We're all the bloody same, you know. Yeah, we're all the exact same all over the world. We're all just trying to do our best and get ahead, and it's not all about end goals or success or what's the next milestone in anything. It's just we're born and we're going to die, so like do what you want in between and see what happens, you know. Don't get too hung up on the whole thing.
Perfect. To end on a Bill Hicks quote.
There you go now.
So just again reiterate where and when you're doing your stand-up.
I've barely mentioned it. I've barely mentioned it. We are in Kildergan, venue 227, 65 Canongate, 6:15 to 7:15, 4th of August to the 25th. No show the 16th. #Ladybeard. Look us up on social media. I'm at Brian Galahad and Anna is at Anna Cliff Comedy or Anna Clifford Comedy. No, Anna Cliff Comedy. Look, it'll be fun. It's a great show. It's an hour. It's the two of us. Come along. It'll be fun. We'll give you a warm welcome.
Perfect. No way better to end this podcast episode. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Anyway,
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks for everyone for listening. Ciao.